Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Shooting the Shelve here on the Just Shelve YouTube channel. I'm Jesse Arnold. With me, I've got co-host Curtis.
Hey, everybody.
Longtime friend Shawn Scavarna.
Hello.
And I've got the lovely gents from the EuroLegions Podcast joining us today, or we have rather. Rich Jones, no relation to Keeley.
Oh.
John Caulfield.
Hey.
And Mal. Thank you very much for giving us some time in your afternoon, guys, and join us wherever you're comfortable saying. Tell us where you guys are from for those who might not know. The bottom three, the podcast guys.
Whoever wants to start.
So I'm originally from North Wales, land of the castles. But I've been living down in Bristol in England for the last 25 years.
Okay.
Nice.
Irishman in Luxembourg. That's me. Lost.
Born in Cardiff, Wales, but for most of my life, from like 1 year old, been living in Birmingham, in the heart of the country, in England.
All right.
Nice.
So you're Welsh then, Mal? I didn't know that. Good to be another Welshman. No, you're born in Wales. You're Welsh.
Yes, more content for me. More tension I can rank up over the next couple of episodes.
No, I'm very proud of my little bit of Welsh.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for joining. For those of you who are not familiar with this, these guys down below are the hosts of the EuroLegions podcast. You can find on I know I listen to it on the Apple iTunes streaming. I'm sure it's on a lot of the other ones as well.
Spotify,
or is that
Google,
Spotify,
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It goes everywhere.
wherever you check out your podcasts and you like listening to folks talk about Mythic Legions and Cosmic Legions, these are the guys you want to listen to.
Or whenever you check out your podcast too, because I listen to these guys when I'm naked in the shower.
Ooh.
How we like it.
We'll factor that into future recordings now. We'll put a nugget in for you.
Stand by, folks. We'll be right back.
Just a little like I love it. You can even do that. This one's for you, Curtis. Next episode, have some smooth jazz kind of music playing, like at your intro.
They already
just
kind of have
Curtis
that.
in the shower time. You know?
Yeah, that intro is already kind of smoothie. You know?
Yeah, I'm gonna put a little shower effect on my sound pad
a little
here.
rain, a little bit of rain.
Yeah.
It's like this is for Curtis.
Occasional
We just make a shower reference every episode.
occasional bar of soap dropping.
I've just got a new. I showered in Mythic Legions.
It's one of those where I watch a lot of shows live. And so, yeah, when I go to take a shower, I'm like, I need something audio just to keep my brain going. And I'm like, okay.
Well, I'm glad it could be us.
Yeah, there you go.
Mind that speaker though, don't get it too wet.
Cool. So we are all here to talk about a show called Ted Lasso, which I know Shawn and I have talked about, and Curtis and I have talked about it over the past couple weeks. Shawn and I over the last couple of years, and I saw some comments from the EuroLegion guys, and I was like, hey, we've been talking about doing some sort of crossover between the shows, and I was like, hey, if you guys want to talk about Ted Lasso after the finale, and everybody agreed. So we're all here to talk about an American football coach coaching soccer / football. I know. I wanted to differentiate between American football. I should have said American football first.
You do you, Jesse.
No,
I call it football, the whole thing. You call it soccer, and we're good.
No. I was going to call it. I meant to say American football and then football, but I didn't. So then I was like course correcting in my brain, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that out loud. And but I will say that I am not a sports guy. I'm not a sports guy. I normally say go Blue Jays whenever people start talking about sports, because there are very few Blue Jays teams, and the ones that exist nobody cares about, except maybe some Canadians. But if I were to watch a sport regularly, it would be football, and I don't mean American football. So my family is writing up their wills and excommunicating me for saying that out loud. But There it is.
See, and for me, I am a sports guy, but I think that soccer is like the most boring sport I've ever seen in my entire life.
Wow.
And like I can't think of anything more dull than watching a soccer
Have you been
game.
to a baseball match?
I have.
Yeah.
Jesus, man.
I remember I went on a trip. I'm not going to say where because people say I call it out too much, but I went on a trip overseas in 2010, right after a big global event happened in that country, the World Cup. And so like I was paying attention and I did watch it a couple years later or parts of it.
South
And yeah,
Africa,
like I
then.
don't know. Yes. Yeah. So I was there. This group I went, we got there right after the World Cup ended. So all the people in the townships in the different places we were obviously not white. And they were like, what are all these people still doing here? The World Cup ended a week ago.
There's some lost Americans.
Vuvuzelas all over the place. And
yeah,
it was
that was the
crazy.
soundtrack of that World Cup. I remember it.
Yes.
Took about a week watching it to get used to it.
This place that you won't name that you were at, did you happen to bless the rains while you were there?
Well, no, because that's the entire continent. I was only in one country.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's going to take a lot to take him away from you.
Yeah.
A lot.
Gotcha.
But it's the itch. I tried to get into it, and then just my ability to pay attention to anything sports. It wasn't because it was football. It was just,
Well, the amount of scoring keeps it riveting for sure.
Yeah, but it's not about the scoring,
Yeah.
Come on, talk to your wife. It's about the build-up.
Oh, gotcha. I think she might disagree with you.
Just saying.
So we got to say a quick hello to a bunch of folks out in the chat. We got Nate Strong, figuratively speaking, Joe Gonzalez, Dan T, Danny. There's more people out there, but there's the only comments I'm seeing so far. So welcome everyone, and for all of you that join us on the replay down the road.
I know that Jesse's got like an agenda and things to discuss and questions and stuff, but real quickly while we got you guys on here, so initially getting into this series and watching this series, it's an American coach for American football going over and coaching a European football team. What are your initial thoughts before you even watch the show? Just the concept of the show. What are your thoughts and what gets you to actually watch it?
Rich?
For me, it was the you can tell John's in charge of our podcast.
Wait, so do I need to be in the middle?
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
For me, it was the reviews from other people. So I didn't have Apple TV when it first came out, so I was a year plus behind.
Gotcha.
And then I got Apple TV as part of a credit card offer sort of thing for a few months, and was asking people I knew had it, what's good, what should we recommend, sort of thing. And everybody, sports fans or not, were Ted Lasso.
Gotcha.
So I said to my wife, "Look, I'm going to watch this program. You won't like it. It's about football." And she's like, "No, I'll give it a go." Because she hates sports, like really hates sports. So she's like, "I'll give it a go as well." And it's now one of her favorite things on telly. She was crying watching the finale with me yesterday. It was like,
Awesome.
Yeah, that's how I got into it.
So really more word of mouth than anything else.
Yes, for me, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Are you sure you didn't look at my questions, Curtis? Because my first question is, how did you discover the show? So I mean, so we'll just roll with that. We'll just keep going with.
I just kind of wanted to see, like, to me, the idea of an American football coach going and coaching a sport that he has no idea about is just absurd. So from their perspective, with that sport so prevalent where they're at, I'm just wondering if it came across that absurd to these guys as well. And what actually, would you go into this going, man, this is going to be a train wreck, or this is going to be hilarious? Like, I just kind of wanted to know their mindset going into this.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for me, not that long ago that I got Apple TV, I'd heard that it was pretty good. Well, really good, I'd heard. And I mean, I don't watch it so much anymore, a fan of American football and obviously a fan of UK football, so very aware of the differences. And yeah, it's that thing, isn't it? You know, it's going to be the fish out of water. Oh, silly American doesn't understand understand the English football and the English way of life, and it's funny whichever way you do it, and it's been done before in different ways, but it can be done really, really well, and as it has been in this case, and really funny.
Excellent.
Yeah, for me, some friends from back in Ireland recommended it, and I was like, okay, well, if they think it's good, it must be something, because they're soccer heads, and I think for me the best thing was that it wasn't just about the soccer, because obviously, if you're looking at
football.
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say, John, you made the list already, dude.
So yeah, but if it was just about the football, I mean, of course, that's just going to be badly done. We watch football every weekend, and that's kind of that's our soap opera for football fans. That kind of is its own soap opera in a way. And and then I saw Hannah Waddington's like, okay, I mean,
that's all it took, huh?
And then I started to recognize the kind of the characters versus the real life versions, which is kind of there is definitely some caricature types that are famous people from football over the years.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
You get to see the kind of that side of it, which I guess is different for different people. Like, as I say, if Rich's wife watches it, maybe you mightn't get the references, but these are compelling characters. Like the guy Roy Kent is based on is an Irish guy, former Irish football captain, and he is box office in Ireland. Like, if he opens his mouth, it's on the front and back pages of the newspapers still, and he's 15 years retired. Yeah, he's just like, he left so it's Roy Keane is the guy's name. He left the Ireland World Cup squad the day before the 2002 World Cup, or maybe 2 or 3 days before, because he had a run in with the manager about the training pitches and the condition and whatever, and then he called him a very bad word in front of everyone, the one the big ones would see that you Americans really don't like. That was the whole World Cup then for us, was just this drama. And he never ever kind of apologized or stood back from it. He always just held his point. Just
So
like Roy
is he
Keane
a little more
Destroy.
like Zava from season 3, where he's
that's Zlatan Ibrahimovic. That's totally different.
okay.
But
it's another guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like walked away with no explanation.
Little housekeeping real quick. As far as ratings on this, like, we're not going to try to offend anybody, but if you say something that's a bad language word, it's okay. so don't
Curtis, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
He hasn't heard that before, believe me. When you have him and the Dooch on our other show on Offworld, the private messages get spicy and it's fun.
Exactly.
Well, it's after 9 p.m. here, so you're good.
There you go.
There you go. Shawn, I know how you discovered it, because I discovered it and showed it to you. So I'm just stealing that thunder right out from under you. I'm sorry. But Curtis, how did you discover the show?
It was kind of same word of mouth. Like, I just heard that it was good. I think it was like $4.99 a month or something to get Apple TV, and I was hearing about several different series that were really good, and that was one of them. So I was like, well, I'm gonna. My initial thought was I'm gonna get this for a month, binge watch these 2 or 3 shows that people have told me about, and then just cancel it. And then, that didn't work out so well. So
there's a lot of good shows on Apple TV.
Yeah. So that's I was hooked. So
I had a customer at the comic shop I work at part-time was really talking it up one day, and then he pulled up one of the, because I guess it was a character they created for the promotional for, there was an American premier team on NBC, or they were doing a show, or someone was doing it, and that's where they created this guy, the Ted Lasso character for, with Sudeikis and everything. So he showed me 1 or 2 of those, and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. And I think it was only up to episode 3 or 4 at the time, because he had talked about the Danny Rojas episode. So I was like, all right, this sounds good. And I checked it out, and then I was just there every week. I was hooked. And then one time Shawn came over. I was like, hey, you got to watch this, which usually doesn't. Shawn's kind of resistant to shows that people are like, you have to watch this, because he likes you like doing it on your own speed, right?
Pretty much. I mean, I heard about it, and I heard a lot of good things. Like everything I'd seen, social media wise, there were people talking about how it's amazing that there's this positive show out there. And considering what we were going through quarantine when the show started, and then on a personal level, I was going through stuff that you obviously Jesse knows about and stuff. I was sleeping on his couch every weekend, so there was like a whole thing. And then he's like, "Well, let's watch this. It's fun." And I'm like, it's like it's either that or we're gonna pop in a DVD we watched 50,000 times. Let's watch something that I haven't seen yet. And then after the first episode, I remember him looking at me, and because of how it ends in that scene in his apartment, and he looks at me, and goes, "I'm sorry," and I go, "No, what happens next?" I'm like, I actually like this. Even though it deals with some of what I'm going through in my personal life, this is really good. I want to know what happens next. And I got sucked in because the story and the characters just were awesome, very endearing.
I'd like to say though that I think there's a little bit of bait and switch that kind of went on with this show, and the only criticism that I've really seen from anybody is that, you know, especially into season 3, was that it's not as funny as I thought it would be, or it's not as funny as it was in the first couple seasons or whatever. And they did, you know, I mean, the whole storyline of this guy going over there and coaching a sport that he knows nothing about sets it up to be a comedy. But if you're watching it just for the laughs, you're missing out on the point of this show. You know, because it's about character building. It's about heart. You know, that's not to say that there's not funny parts, because there are some very funny parts in this show, but that is not the reason to watch this show. So just for anybody out there that has not seen this yet, we're going to get into a bunch of spoilers, so you probably shouldn't be watching this. But yeah, if you're going to watch it for the heart, watch it for the character building, because it's an amazing series. But yeah, don't do it just for the laughs. It would be my advice. I mean,
there will be scenes where you'll be like laughing your guts out, and then like the next thing happens and it feels like your guts just got eviscerated emotionally, at least for me. So yeah,
it's a bit like real life, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a slightly rosy tint to a real life. It's not just a sitcom. It's not completely a drama. You know, it's got a little bit of everything, I think, which is one of the things I really like about it. Which, let's get into that. If you do have one, please share it with the group. Do you have a favorite character? We'll start with Rich and come around. What is it? Not
counterclockwise.
Yeah, you guys say it different over there, don't you?
No, counterclockwise. Nope. Good.
No, is it counter? Okay.
Or anti-clockwise, I suppose.
I was wondering about this earlier, actually, about whether I get asked this or not. It's a really tricky one. I think just because he's so bubbly and happy, it's got to be Danny. Danny Rojas. He doesn't have that much. He's not one of the main characters, but it's just, you know, when he's on, something dramatic is going to happen. Be it a really big laugh if he's like, "Hey, football is life," and you know, you're having
I love to bring people joy,
laugh and that sort of stuff. Or you know, he's terrifying one of his fellow players, as he was in this series, sort of thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't do an awful lot, but what he does brilliantly. Or you know, God bless the greyhound when he slaughtered that poor greyhound.
That's still pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
Football is also death. All right, John, how about you?
Coach Beard for me.
Coach Beard,
nice.
He's just mental. Just totally unpredictable. Could imagine that he could be a drug addict, or he could have 3 PhDs. You're not sure, but it's one of the two. Yeah. And that episode they did with him, in the one where it just focused on him, was in the last series.
Oh yeah,
was it ours in the second series?
The rave one.
Yeah,
where
it's the whole story
is like
him,
Beard's
basically.
Night Out or something like that.
Yeah.
And
I read afterwards
that he's a professor and he's got all these details.
Yeah, exactly. And I read about that episode that was an episode they actually did in addition to the series. I think there was 2 of them that they kind of wanted more episodes. I guess it was a COVID thing or something. that they had space for more episodes, and they actually just did this after the fact, and it didn't really ruin the continuity because it was just basically its own thing. But it really gave you an insight into him, outside of kind of what you see, and just completely like always interested in his little side stories. It was never, there was some when they focused on certain storylines, especially towards the end, it was a bit like, come on, get on to the next a little bit. But with him, I could just watch a whole series on him.
How about you, Mel?
And he's one of the writers as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of them who have writing credits contributed to the writing, and like especially like creating their own characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he might even be one of the like executive or assistant producers, I think.
I think he is. Yeah.
Yeah, and Brett Goldstein, who did Roy Kent, he was actually the writer for the show. And he actually, when he was writing the character or when he was reading the script, he was like, this is me, I can do this. And he actually did an audition tape and sent it back and said, I want this part. And he got it that way.
Which leads nicely on to, I reckon Roy Kent is my favourite character.
Yeah. Well, you're a Man U fan, so.
Well, yeah. Which, for you guys, the American guys, is a bit like, I guess, it's supporting a team in a different city, which is kind of frowned upon. But yeah, I support Man United. So it's like, living in Philly and supporting the Giants, I guess, would be similar.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, so Roy Kent, I think, he has such a good story arc from the first episode of Series 1 to the final episode of Series 3. He's funny. I mean, he's miserable. He's a miserable bastard. And every so often it cracks, and you can tell it really annoys him when he cracks. But yeah, it's just so funny for the whole thing.
Yeah, towards the end when he was starting to come out with his own little Tedisms, and it was killing him. I was like, yes.
Yeah. Well, Ted's got to be a close second as well, because here we go, sitting on the fence.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, come on, man.
Ted's a close second because I like the Tedisms and the fact that he comes across as this very affable. He's a little bit neighbor of The Simpsons. But
Ned
then
Flanders.
Ned Flanders.
He's a bit
Yeah,
Ned Flanders, but
Flanders.
then much deeper, and you feel much more intelligent, isn't he? So,
More likable, definitely.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love that one where he's like, I look like I showed up like as Ned Flanders.
Yeah. He did make that joke, didn't he?
Oh, of course. Yes. Yeah.
I just want to pull up one comment here. Payne's Toy Sample says Roy and Jamie had real growth.
Yeah.
I think you could really say that about every character in the series. I mean, you could do a breakdown on every single character and look at where they started versus where they ended. Whether it's Higgins or Nate or, Jamie and Roy, like every single one of them grew throughout. So yeah, I love that part of it. So Shawn?
So yeah, I'm right there with Mal. I got to go with Roy because I love that his character, when you first meet him, he looks like he's going to be this alpha asshole. He's going to be the roughest guy that you'll meet on this football club. And he has so many little human moments to make you go, he can't be that guy, but you love him because he still can do it somehow. Like one of my absolute favorite moments that won me over on him was when he went after Jamie into that club and he's there with Keely and he's just like, I'm here to tell you, Jamie, you're a wanker and this and that. And he's like, and I can't see very well in the dark anymore, so fuck all y'all. And I was like howling and clapping because it's like I'm at that age where things are starting to change with my vision and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I love that he admitted it. And it still didn't even make him stop a beat from just flat out telling everybody off and still making his point get across.
But
and
then he'll have like a tea party with his niece and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we play Princess and the Dragon? Yeah, but I want to be the dragon. So no. Okay, fine. I love it. And like another one was that he admitted that he pooped himself because he ate ice cream and he's lactose. And the little boy's like, you pooped yourself? And he's like, yeah, what of it? I have that happen sometimes myself. And I absolutely love it because he's one of those characters that he plays so well against his own type, but he still holds that type somehow. It just, it works so well for me.
All right, I'm gonna go last, so we'll switch over to Curtis.
Oh, you cheater!
Yeah,
you broke the counterclockwise.
I did.
He's the
Because he
host.
wants
He can
to
do what
sit
he
with me.
wants.
I loved so many characters that it's really hard to say, but I'm gonna have to go with Ted, just because, like he's the person that I would like to be. Like he makes me want to be a better person. Watching him and just like his attitude towards life and all this and that. But then he also has these moments that he struggles with that I've struggled with. I've struggled going through a divorce. I have a panic disorder. So seeing him have like the panic attacks and how he works through that, and he has to, really struggle with opening up to people and getting help for it. Those kind of things really hit a nerve with me. And pulled me in even further into this show. It's just so real. And it's, like I said, it's just one of those things where, there's a lot of funny laughs, but there's also those things that pull you in and you're like, man, I love this show and I love these characters. And I just relate so much to him that I've got to say Ted.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna throw not a wrench in it, but I'm gonna throw this out. I do find Ted to be the most relatable myself to a lot of the similar things Curtis said, but I think my favorite character, I'm cheating. It's a toss up between Rebecca and Jamie.
Oh wow,
that's a double cheat. You went out of order and you picked two people. That's it. You're off the show.
I mean, okay.
And you wrote the question, so you've had all the week to think about it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about the questions. I didn't write them down until like 3 hours ago.
Fair.
I like the progression Rebecca has where she's doing this, like she is just using Ted and the team. They're not people to her. They're just commodities at her disposal. And how she turns around with the way the show ends with what she does, I think is really cool. And then Jamie going from the completely self-obsessed, completely unaware that other people have problems kind of person to where he ends up by the end of the show. I just really it was really interesting writing in how they both kind of came into their own power and their own strength while becoming better people.
I love that press conference they did, the second to last episode where he's there. He goes, "Yeah, that goal shouldn't have counted. It was a lie." And I'm like, I was howling. He's just so timid compared to Jamie Tart being Jamie Tart in that scene.
And to your point, Jesse, with Rebecca, like at the start of the show, like she has basically pushed everybody out of her life, even her best friends, her family, this and that. To see her go and then open it up to Ted and then, create this friendship with Keeley. And then, over time, like get to the point where like she's even interacting with the guys in the bar and like feeling like these, football fans are part of her family. Mm-hmm. That it's just huge character growth. And I agree with everything you're saying there.
Plus it's Hannah, like why she's the most fun person to watch on the screen in this show.
Oh yeah.
John's reason to show up.
Every time those biscuits are delivered, I'm like,
the moment when
I love when he messes. I love the week when he gets them wrong and he
the too much salt or something. Yeah.
and he's like, I'll take them back. She's like, no. This is interesting. Like
the episode where she kind of helps Ted with his panic attack and finally starts showing some humanity. But then I think it's like the next episode, she still is like going after that revenge and still using Ted. And it's just one of those where you can start see her struggle with, this, plan that she's concocted. And it's just a really cool moment for that character to see her start to realize that, hey, I've, in my effort to get back at my ex, I'm using people and hurting people that, I kind of am starting to care about. So. Yeah.
And I loved how they worked out between Higgins and Keeley were the ones that kind of forced her to confront that about herself. Like how when Higgins is at home playing his upright bass with his Van Dyke.
That was so great.
He's my number 2, by the way. Yeah, he would have been right in behind it. Just beard is just But Higgins at the first episode, I was like, oh, he's going to be a pain in the arse. But after that, it was like, wow, love this guy.
All his involuntary gagging when someone's making him do something
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
every time gets me. Every time laughing.
Well, and another great character growth. Like you see him at the beginning, and he's so skittish and afraid to say anything, and by the end, he's part of the Diamond Dogs, and he's throwing out wisdom and advising Rebecca on things that she should do with the franchise and stuff. And it's just, once again, some awesome growth through all the characters.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorites too.
What I will say about Roy is I think it's because he probably would have been my favorite, but it's because I've been listening to the guy for 30 years, It's basically like, okay, I can't pick him now,
It's all brand new to me, so that's
I totally understand. And like it's completely compelling, this alpha with the kind of cracks, and every time everyone is just waiting for him to crack, That's why a journalist in real life goes to this guy every time, and he's waiting for when he gets a soft answer, because that is like headlines, He's just getting the cold shoulder. It's like, oh, just have
the
to write
moment
this rubbish again.
In the last episode, the moment when he asked to be a Diamond Dog, I was just
that was a fist bump. That was a fist bump moment. Wasn't it?
I cheered, actually. I clapped.
Man, I was just
I just love, because what is it, the end of the very first episode or second episode, where it's the whole thing where he's forcing Roy to like be the captain and step up and like communicate. He's like, I'm not going to do it. You're going to do it. You're the captain.
Right.
But he's like, man, if he hates me now, he's like, wait till he finds out that he loves us or whatever.
Yeah.
So many, and there are so many great characters. Even Rupert, like, even though he's definitely like an antagonist character throughout the thing, like even though they give him like the full like black trench coat, like Darth Vader vibes in season 3, and they made his office look like the Death Star and everything. Like he's still just a person. Like, he is a bad person, but like he never comes off as like just absolutely evil. And he had opportunity to grow and change, and then he just kept choosing not to, which again, very real life.
The one part that I did not like with his character, because it was like I wanted that one person that I just did not like, throughout the series, and he filled that role. And then they had that one scene where it's like, Rebecca and Rupert and all the different football owners there, and he like sides with her and actually shows a little bit of humanity. And I'm like, no, don't make me like Rupert. Like, I don't want to like, and then they did make him kind of go straight back to being an ass, which was good. But I was like, don't make this guy seem human. Like,
I absolutely love that moment in that episode where she's sitting there and they're just all talking about how they can make each other more wealthy. And of course, it reminds me of the scene in Jurassic Park. They're like, oh yeah, we'll have like the $1 coupon day or whatever, where it's to come to the park, and then she just imagines them all as like little kids. So I just lost it at that point. Especially was it Edwin Akufu, the guy from Africa, like how he just has his whole what he's like doing is like, I'll go to your house and I'll poop on your family's house and then burn it down.
I was so happy when he threw the head at Rebecca and she went like this. I was like, yes.
I think that was
the laptop was going across the room if she kissed him back. Like,
I think that was the point of that episode, wasn't it? Was to show it was a massive turning point in herself. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they still kept you to the last second thinking, "Oh my God, she's gonna just be weak," and it was so great that she wasn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Jesse, I don't know what's on your list, but do you have like favorite moment of the series on your list?
Yep.
Is that one we could do, or is it too early?
Yeah, they're not. I just have them in a random order. So do you have the way I have it written is like, do you have a favorite moment or episode like that? Yeah. So we'll start with Mal and go clockwise this time, skipping me, and I will go last.
Oh gosh. Just trying to have a think here. I suppose favorite.
One moment, Mal.
Yeah,
One
no.
moment.
Leave some for the rest of us.
Favorite episode is probably Coach Beard's night out, isn't it? It's so random and just out there, and you actually get to learn quite a bit about him and his character in but then you don't necessarily then touch on much more after that, and his vulnerabilities that he's got that he doesn't normally let on. So I'd say that's probably my favorite episode.
Okay. Is there a particular part in that episode that is maybe a favorite moment? Or a favorite Coach Beard moment in general?
Yeah, I mean, most of it's like whenever he's dancing and he gets all into
the pants are pretty good. But the pants are amazing.
I quite like the bit where he ends up getting into the fight as well, weirdly.
Yeah.
But it's been cool that big guy turns up to help him, and then they're relating afterwards.
I didn't keep seeing the commentators showing up, like talking about his personal life.
Yeah.
Shut up, Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
All right, how about you, John?
They're the real commentators as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
on like TV. For me, it's that moment it starts at the first season where Rebecca basically reveals to Ted, sorry, I've been stringing you along and trying to, bring down this club by appointing you. And it's that moment in the 3 seasons where she comes into the office with her kind of big end of season piece of news,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was beautifully done at the last episode, or at the last season, sorry, where she comes in and she's like, I have nothing to tell you, man. And he's like, oh yeah, well actually now I have something to tell you, and it's like,
Fuck.
Turn the tables on her.
Was great.
Yeah. So I think that was just that was a very neat device. I'm sure. I mean, the writers on this show are extremely talented, and I know a couple of them were involved in huge American shows like Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy and all this kind of stuff. So they really know what they're doing, In addition to all the other people that are keeping it kind of with the football side of it and all the other stuff. But this is why it's such a good show as well, because the writing is just perfect, and that's a real big illustration of that, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Rich?
Favorite moment for me is a really easy one. It's the moment where Sam turns down Edwin to go and play for his team in, was it Morocco? Mm-hmm. And this guy's been trying everything. He's been whining and dining him. He's been such a really lovely guy. He's I want to be your best friend. I want you to play for me. And then he just snaps and he's like, "You Nigerian motherfucker!"
Yeah,
and just goes from there. And he walks into the hall, doesn't he? Just beats up the dummy
mannequin,
the mannequin. Yeah, just beats the hell out of it, and and just keeps looking back at directly at Sam as he's doing it, and he's just like, ah! And it goes on for so long. It could be the sort of thing they could just a throwaway clip sort of thing, but no, they focus on him and he keeps going, he keeps hammering it, he keeps beating. I just loved that. I just thought that was absolutely brilliant.
Awesome.
On a side note there to do with Sam, when his dad turns up and it's big guy from Sweet Tooth. I don't know if you've watched Sweet Tooth on Netflix. I was like, I love that guy.
Yeah, the episode with his dad was great.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, really.
For me, there is one specific moment that I've probably watched 50 times. And it is when Ted is playing darts with Rupert to help Rebecca not have Rupert come to the games. And he just is coming across as this, idiot American that doesn't know what he's doing, and Rupert's gonna wipe the floor with him. And he goes through that, Walt Whitman line about, being curious, not judgmental. And it's so true. Like if more people could do that and just be curious rather than judgmental, like how much different things would be. And then the fact that he's telling that story while he's, just hitting exactly what he needs to on the board, is just like the greatest moment. And this is at a time where she's still lying to Ted and using Ted, and yet he steps up to help her. Just so good. So
cool.
Yeah.
Shawn?
I'm having a hard time thinking of one, and I'd have to go with maybe like the most effective ones, like the ones that really like affected me more than maybe it being like the best episode of the show. It was 451 in season 3. That one affected me a bunch, just from the level of like something that they brought up in the beginning of the season. It was on the third episode. Sorry, season 1, third episode. He has that interview with Trent Krim, and he's talking about how part of his role of being a coach is to make those men as good as they can be, both on the pitch and off. And when the whole thing about they find out that one of them is possibly gay in the locker room, and then they're going through that whole thing and how it affects is it McAdoo or McAdoo?
McAdoo, yeah.
I say that name, unfortunately. But when it affects him because he finds out it's Colin, and Colin doesn't say a word to him, so then there's that whole unspoken uneasiness. But the minute somebody on the field yells the F-bomb, which is to me a worse F-bomb than fuck at this point, and they say that, and he gets into the crowd and starts fighting the guy, and then out of anybody, this is what blew my mind, out of anybody, Roy is the one to pull him out. And he's the one trying to be the voice of reason, which I know they said it on the show. They're like, Roy Kent is the voice of reason. The world's gone crazy, and all that. And I love that. But then at the press conference, one of the moments that completely just, I had a moment with this was just them talking about what happened out there, and him saying that, well, whatever happened out there, that's between him and whatever's going on. But I wish him love. And that moment just hit me like a ton of bricks hearing it, because it really showed his arc at that point. He would have been somebody who would have joined in the fight in season 1. And that here he is being a voice of reason, being a leader, and then also wishing love on somebody, even though he doesn't understand why they're upset about this.
Well, and then Roy goes even further to tell that story about when he was a younger player. And that is just a great example of, once again, how much growth he's had.
Yeah.
To where he can now see that, and see that when somebody's hurting, and that kind of thing. So,
and it's like I'd say, because season 3 is the most fresh in my mind, that's one that I would go to. But then a runner up would be when Jamie has to punch his father in the locker room. And the first thing that happens is Roy walks right over to him and hugs him, and that's all that needs to be done. Yeah, and everybody in the locker room. I love that scene isn't played out to be macho. It wasn't played out for them to cheer Jamie because he just punched out his dad. It was a personal moment. Everybody was in on it, and they got to see him stoop to his dad's level, and they know he can do better than that. And that's why the hug was given. And it showed that whole idea, just like in 451, where it was, we all are in this together. We all have each other's backs. We're a family on and off the field. It's like those kind of moments don't happen in life as often as you see them in TV, which is why they matter when you see them in TV, especially on shows like this.
I'll say that moment with Jamie in the locker room, like, he's been, he does like the model thing. He went to that event without a shirt on, just his jacket, and he's like half naked all the time. But like that moment in the locker room with those guys and his dad, like that was like the first time I feel like Jamie was probably ever actually like exposed and vulnerable, like, for real in front of people. And that's definitely a powerful moment. I'm going to continue on Shawn's not somber, but more, the serious note. Like for me, the moment that this show really clicked for me, and is a moment I think about a lot, is the karaoke bar. Rebecca gets up, she's singing her song, and everybody can hate Let It Go all they want. Like, I still like that movie. I don't have kids, so I haven't heard it a bazillion times. But the fact that she's doing that, and you're seeing, her friend Sassy had said, like, that's the real her, starting to come out and everything. But then Ted starts to have his panic attack, and you're starting to realize what it is. And it made me think back to the first episode when he's getting thrown in front of the press conference for the first time. And like, I was like, oh gosh, that's what that was. And I was like, oh crap, that's what happens to me all the time. Like, I had never put quite those words to it, I don't think, at that point. So I'm really glad and then when he goes outside and Rebecca comes to him and she's like, you're having a panic attack, just breathe. And they just talk. And that whole moment of like the genuine connection between them, even though she was closer to getting off of the more villainous side of her character at that point. But that moment with her just like running out to make sure he was okay, I just thought really
but that's when you saw the true her, really, isn't it, for the first time? Maybe
and I really like that. And it led, like Curtis said, I deal with depression and anxiety and different things like that, and Ted's that thing, it just, nothing different was happening. He'd been in that situation before. I mean, there was this stuff because he was signing the divorce papers and everything, but just certain things would just trigger that. So I was like, man, I really relate to that. And that just really made me appreciate the way they actually explored the mental health, especially in season 2.
The introduction of the therapist is amazing.
Dr. Fieldstone, I thought was really great.
She's a brilliant character.
And I love that she got to have parts where she wasn't perfect, like she had flaws, and like Ted got to call her out, and she's like, no, you're right, that was pretty bad of me to do that. Thought that was really cool.
Well, I'm going to cheat since Jesse cheated earlier, and I'm going to throw out another one since nobody mentioned it. The second to last episode with Beard having to go and talk to Nate, another great moment. Like, the fact that Ted could have handled that on his own, but he has that conversation with Beard, shows him the video of Nate hiding under the desk for 3 hours, talks about redemption. And you see that moment where Beard's like, fuck, like, I got to go do this. And then that story that he tells about, Ted helping him and taking him in, and then him screwing Ted over. And it was just more insight to Beard's character. It was powerful how he now is returning that favor and paying it forward to somebody else. It was just a very powerful moment.
That I was listening to something this week after watching the final episode, and I got a laugh out of this because there's a lot of people who look at Ted on the show as being almost like a really good way of how you should write Superman now, because he's optimistic, he's hopeful, he wants to inspire, he wants to give other people the feeling they can do other things and better things and bigger things. And he comes from the Midwest. It just, he's got that kind of vibe about him, that homegrown vibe, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And the person talking about it basically said Beard is like Batman. And that moment with Nate when he sees him at the end of that hall doing his, I'm like, yeah, that's the equivalent. If Ted would have went, it would have been a whole, like it would have been so soft and handled and all. It's like, no, you have Beard there. And it's literally the Dark Knight has come for his reckoning against you. And I like how Nate's like, oh my God, like, like how am I supposed to handle this? Because Beard really is like he is the right-hand guy to Ted, but there is that, you don't know what that guy's capable of, because the episode, him going out and having his night out, when I first saw that, I'm like, I didn't know he was like this. and then like to go, okay, I don't know that side of him. I don't know what he could do in this situation either. So it makes him more, it does have that Batman vibe then.
He's not a physically imposing guy, but he's one that you don't want to mess with or be upset with you.
And you don't know unknown before he came over. That's the other thing too. Did he
the unknown quality. It's like we see the little bit thing, he's got his connection with Ted. He's got like all these like, oh, Ted's doing this. Like he's so much a supporting character. When you get into him, that whole night out thing where, like you were saying earlier, how he rolls up and he's like pretending to be the Irish professor from Oxford.
Good
And
accent,
like
actually.
he just rolls right into it and just all these things. It's like, okay, he's just
Total
one of the guys that just knows everything. And, the stuff with chess, and he's like dated like dancers and cruise ships and like just all this like wacky life. And then he gets into his story and it's like, oh, that all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Like why, like,
and also just his relationship with the I can't remember her name that she marries
Jane.
at the end.
Jane, yeah.
I mean, that's just a complete psycho. Like, but it's absolutely on brand. Like, if it was just a normal, woman, or a really good looking woman, or kind of whatever. But no, just a complete psycho. That's exactly what he would end up with.
They bonded over chess.
Yeah.
When they're in the pub and she's playing chess with someone else, and he walks over, he's like, she's been playing with you all night, and he just moves the one piece over. He's like, checkmate, grab your things, let's go.
I don't know that I needed to see his ass in the last episode.
But you did.
But I did. Yeah.
And it's something you're never going to forget, Curtis.
Yeah, true.
Clearly.
One of the lines that haunts me from that episode still is, some of those things are meant to be dirty. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is in that room?
All right. Here's the big elephant in the room question. Well, maybe not elephant in the room. That might have been the wrong expression. What about Nate?
You're going to have to be more specific, Jesse. What about Nate?
I don't know. I mean, Mal's nodding his head, so it seems like he's got a thought there.
I think it's yet another great storyline, isn't it? He's obviously feels like he's not been seen, let's put it that way, for most of his life, and then suddenly starts to be seen, and it goes to his head. And he's still, though, even when he's managing West Ham, he's scared, isn't he? He's scared of Rupert. And I was going to say that's one of the moments actually that came to me as you guys was where he finally stands up to Rupert and walks away. I can't do this. Walks away. No, lose his job. Knows he's going to lose his job, but there are more important things to him at that point. And I think it's yet another. As we've said, going around, every character, well, nearly every character in this has an amazing story arc, and Nate's is another one. I must admit, I did wonder if he was going to end up, massive spoilers for anyone who's watching, but we've warned you, I did wonder if he was going to end up as the manager of Richmond at the end of it all.
That's kind of what I thought, yeah.
But actually,
he's the assistant to the boot boy.
But it's penitence, isn't it, for what he did?
Yeah. Well, they also made him pay how many pounds was it in that for missing all of the practices that season or whatever? That was hysterical.
Well, I love that he came back with the box. Like he made that cardboard box. It was a callback to the first season where that was like, it's like, oh man, this adult man's making like cardboard box with his niece. Like what? And to bring that back around where he's happy to do it at the end.
What's 5,000 pounds? Is that like $10 or something?
I don't think it was 5. I think it was like 3,000 or 2,000, something like that. It wasn't like 5, but yeah.
Yeah, 5,000 would be $6,000.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, with Nate, brilliant story arc, and then season 3 sucked with Nate.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was awful. But the thing with West Ham is just no. If he went to manage the restaurant and kind of out and met the girl and did all that without the West Ham thing, fine. But this whole managing West Ham, and then he got like the whole firing and everything that happened off screen. Like that was, for me that just was really like disappointing character arc. At the end was the redemption, sure, but I think it would have worked better. The manager of West Ham is not going to be outside the Taste of Athens dribbling at the window at the waitress. It's just not going to happen.
I don't know enough about
this. Is like one of the most famous people in London,
But was that not because of who he was as a person? He wasn't the manager.
But he's jumped the shark. Then if you're going to take a shortcut and work, and suddenly you're the boss of the whole place, it doesn't mean because you came from being nobody that suddenly you can get away with a load of stuff and kind of, don't have to suffer the consequences of being the boss. He would have had tabloid newspapers snapping a picture of him outside the restaurant. He would have. I understand, but I just think that just jumped the shark way too much for me in regard to him. He should have more been like, sold out Ted, got fired, gone on, and found his path. Maybe a couple of other angles where he tried to undermine the team and went to the press and blah blah blah, but the whole manager of West Ham thing just didn't.
I could see that point, and I'm not disagreeing at all. But the one thing that I personally took from how that was handled was how impersonal him being there felt versus how personal it was to be a part of Ted's team. Like him doing the losing his job in between episodes, basically. I looked at that as it didn't matter. And the thing about the press not going after him, he didn't matter. He was the Wonder Kid, which I think is funny still. Wonder Kid, actually. No, Wonder Kid. They kept doing that. So they kept putting him in this box of you're still this little boy who just managed to call a good play here and there, and boom, all of a sudden you're the flavor.
And how
of the
did his hair just go grey like one day to the next?
That was weird. And I think there was.
I was wondering if I'd missed a couple of episodes.
Because it was literally like it was the equivalent of like when Anakin all of a sudden has yellow eyes in Revenge of the Sith versus it's like, okay, that's different. But I don't know. I looked at it from that perspective, but I do feel that wrapped up a little faster than maybe if they had like a season 4 and they did some of this going into season 4, it might have felt a little less like, oh, it's all tidy. Boom. It got wrapped up or whatever.
When he was manager and being an asshole to all the, to everyone around him was to make up for the fact that he felt completely imposter syndrome. So that was really well done. Yeah. But it was just the fact that it went from such a jump, and I didn't think it was necessary compared to where he ended up back to, because you also just wouldn't end up back there no matter how much you loved it.
Yeah,
from that scenario. I mean, you're going from a job that pays probably 2-3 million.
Yeah.
And you're back scrubbing boots. I mean, okay, I know he's a humble guy and where he came from and whatever, but it was just... it's not a problem with it doesn't cause a huge problem for the series, but if you're going to ask me what do you think of Nate, I was like, I could have skipped a lot of his scenes in season 3.
The one part that I'll agree with you on, John, is where he ends up. Like, I liked all of his arc in season 3. Like the end of season 2, I hate his guts. Like, I'm like, how could you do this to Ted? Like, he's the only guy that's ever showed you any sort of care or compassion or whatever.
Yeah.
And then as you go through season 3, you get to a little bit more insight on him and his relationship with his parents and his own lack of self-confidence. And it's like, he's never had anybody really care for him. And so then the one person that does, he turns on him, and then you can see he's struggling with feeling bad about it all throughout that 3rd season, and see him to start to humanize. And I did like the relationship with him and the waitress and all this and that. Mm-hmm. The only part that I struggled with was when he comes back to the team. I think he should come back as an assistant coach. The fact that he comes back as a kit man and he's, carrying water bottles and stuff, to me, that's the part where it's like, okay, he wouldn't go back to having water bottles when you know that he's a great strategist when it comes to the field, the play on the field. So that part was a little weird for me.
Yeah.
But other than that,
you could make the jump and say, okay, now next season he's probably not going to be doing that. He's probably, if there was a next season, they go, okay, well now you're back in and everyone accepts you and we realize your talent, so you can, you're going to be Roy's assistant or something.
You paid your penance,
that could jump, but you're not coming. We're in an almost winning season. You're not just going to jump into second in command just to take the glory at the end. So
right,
but I just thought, and again, I totally understand from your perspective where you don't really, you're not focused on that sort of stuff, in terms of the football ins and outs of it. But it was just a bit of a stretch for me. But then you see Mal, it didn't bother Mal, so it's not even maybe it's not even that.
So here's a question: Is it because it was West Ham that is a real team that was the problem? If it had been a team that had been built
No, I
up as
think
a
no.
competitive team that wasn't as big a club,
No, it wouldn't really matter if they're in the Premier
Okay.
League. Even Richmond. We can take that as an amalgam
So-
for another Premier League team.
So you saying that if you are a coach in the Premier League, you couldn't possibly fall in love with a waitress? Is that what you're like?
No, it's
like
just
they're
that like
too
you couldn't be
lowly
hanging
for
around.
you?
You couldn't be. You'd be going in the back door and kind of
paparazzi would be
Yeah,
all
you
over
would.
him.
But we did say
slipping 100
There
quid
you
to the
go,
maitre
Mal.
d to kind of to
Some of the
get
things in
there
the
on
show
sly.
are intentionally dirty.
Yeah.
Front door, back door, you get to say whatever you want.
Should have just left it, Mal. People would have got it. No, joking.
That's something for me that's I found indicative of the whole show, and I'm not sure it's because maybe some of the writers are American and they didn't quite get the Premier League and what it's like over here. But as John said, it's managers wouldn't do that. McAdoo, when he went in the crowd and beat that guy up, the only time that's happened recently, the player got a 9-month ban. So whereas McAdoo was back playing in the next week, sort of thing.
That
So
was
there was just
1995.
it was just things like that just.
So there's some
didn't,
things that you guys were not able to suspend your reality for because you're so ingrained in it. Gotcha.
Yeah.
But
So
it was not taking it away from the show, I don't think. It's
No,
more
not at all.
just if we're on a live stream to chat about it, I think it's fair to bring it up.
Sure.
And it doesn't take away from the overall enjoyment. Like I'll go back again and I might roll my eyes at the odd one or two things, but that's perfect. This is everything you watch is going to be.
Yeah.
The flows make it better.
Yeah.
As a show overall, it was great. I just think if the
I mean, on a
writers
side note, the actual scenes where there's a bit of football, they're actually quite well done. Because it's very hard to do sports on the TV, any sport. Not just exclusively football, but any sport to look realistic. Because we watch it. If you watch sports on TV, you know what it looks like.
Yeah.
And this obviously gave you a slightly different camera angle and a bit more on the pitch, which is fair enough. But it did look like it wasn't like when they kicked the ball or and I think the way they did it was they slowed it down really a lot, and then in post editing probably put it at the normal speed, and then it looks really real.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But however they did it, it really wasn't. It didn't bother me, so therefore I thought it was good.
In season 3, the moment where Nate tries to make his own kind of Diamond Dogs is another one where it's like,
Oh yeah.
Let's never do
That's
that.
just a cringe. That's just if you've watched The Office, I think that's a little nod to something, that kind of humor.
Yeah.
The thing with Nate that I really loved the most out of this season was one little moment, and it was just season 2. Anytime he had to gather up his courage, he'd go into the restroom and he'd spit in the mirror. And the moment that he went into the restroom this season, he's looking in the mirror and he smiles. I cheered because I hated seeing him doing the spitting in the mirror, because you knew that was him doing the whole I'm going to be everything I'm not. And then in this season, when he smiles, I'm like, that's him. And I was so happy to see him back in that moment. All things aside, it was just like, he's back. Come on, good for you, Nate. You're back on the right track, at least compared to the other stuff. So it was a simple little moment, but I loved it.
I think when Nate spat in the mirror, that's the point that character lost me, and I don't think I ever came back to him. It was so horrible, and I can see why they did it, and it makes complete sense why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such a vile thing to do, and he did it a couple of times, didn't he?
At least 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, and then they flipped him to the really evil side of things, and I could never get back on board with Nate, even when they were trying to do the redemption arc. For me, another series, I think, as somebody said earlier, it might have worked, but it was just a bit too quick.
Mm-hmm.
He'd gone so far the other way and become so dislikable that it was just a little bit too quick to resolve.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they did get him back on track, but I do agree his arc in season 3 was a bit short. Like it happened too quick. I'm glad it happened, but it was definitely, that was like the
clunky,
nicest, that was the nice tied up in a bow, for the fans kind of thing, it felt like. But the moment with him and his dad, when he's playing the violin and the dad gives him the whole speech, he's like, "You've always been a genius. I just didn't know how to deal with you." I'm not saying I'm a genius, but like I can relate to like my parents not getting what I'm into. So like there's moments there that.
Well,
felt,
Jesse, I don't know if this is on your list, but I mean, how many daddy issues are there in this show? I mean, it's all.
Well,
the
doesn't
dad's
someone
fault.
even say? Oh no, I think
I'm looking at my kids now, going, Jesus. I mean, am I going to mess them up? You know?
Well, I mean, and they use that.
Everyone in this show has a problem with their dad. You know.
Yeah, everything's fathers and sons for the most part. I mean, there's some of it with
And
Rebecca
I get it,
and
it's a
her
sports
dad,
show, you know.
Yeah. But I love that it's not all the same.
No, it's not
father
the same
and son
type of
issues.
stuff,
They're all dramatically different.
I do like the episode. Was it the second to last or third to last episode? The one where, Ted basically helps Jamie through his issues with his dad, and then takes that same information and goes and has that tough conversation with his mother, and like that, it's just one of those where no matter who you are, where you're from, there's typically you're going to have some sort of issues with your parents that at some point you have to resolve. And, John, even if you do the greatest job in the world, at some point your kids are going to have something to say to you, I'm sure.
Sure.
So,
that's true.
Especially when they get to that age where they think they know more than you. And
and
then they got to tell you all the things you did wrong.
Yeah. Jeez. It's going to be fun.
All right. Kind of along with Nate, he was kind of a main character. My next question is thoughts on side characters getting a lot of screen and story time. Like Colin didn't have a whole lot of story in the first 2 seasons. He was around a lot, but then he gets a pretty significant story in season 3. And they do that. Like Higgins gets fleshed out a good bit. Like how did you guys appreciate that? Did you feel it pulled away too much from Ted or the other characters, or did you like the mix?
I will say I felt in the last season having Colin's storyline and Keely's storyline at the same time felt like they were kind of shoving it down my throat. Like it's like I would have just stuck with Colin's. Like it's important to I think having somebody that comes out in a sport, doesn't matter what the sport is, but when you're playing with a group of guys and you're, gay, coming out is a very sensitive topic. And it's one that has been difficult for people to do. And then to deal with fans shouting horrible things and all this and that, I think that was an important part of the storyline. I don't know that they needed to do that same kind of thing with Keely and her relationship with her boss. I felt like throwing two kind of similar storylines in there in the same season, to me, felt a little bit too much.
Yeah, the Keely one was not believable for me at all.
Yeah.
That particular one felt to me like just to subvert the thing where the boss is a woman, and then they played that side out just to have it. I don't know. I don't have a problem with it, but I thought the Colin story was better handled and more more
and you had,
substantial.
Yeah, and you had Trent Krim, who had a great arc as well in the whole thing. I thought he was a brilliant character. And the whole angle of writing the book at the end was amazing. And then him to kind of be Colin's ally in that, he's kind of a similar situation or had gone through the same stuff in the past. It was really well done. And that kind of really...
Ted leaves for him on the book. Perfect.
Yeah.
See, I think I disagree with you boys on this one. I actually quite liked the way they did the Keely thing, because they didn't focus any attention on the fact it was another woman. They just did it. When I was watching, it was just like, she's just started a relationship, and that's it. There was never any, nobody picked up on it. Roy didn't say anything. Jamie didn't say. Nobody was having to going, hang on a minute, how come we now seeing a girl? None of that.
But was there an implication there that
she's in a new relationship?
Was there an implication there from Roy that, because he's such an alpha, he wasn't threatened because it was another woman, even though he's obviously he had dumped her or whatever? But is there a little bit of an element to that there?
I think Rich might be siding with Keely because he's related to her is one thing, regardless of what his name tag says.
now that Rich is pointing that out, I do agree. Like, they don't focus on, like, I mean, yes, it's part of it. We see it as the audience, but the characters in the show don't deal with it. Like, Keely was like what do they call him? I mean, she was inspired by Keely Hazel, who played Bex, right? Is what I've read. The Rupert's second wife. Like, she was based on her, and she was like a model, right?
Yeah.
In real life. So I think like that.
She was a glamour model in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody bats an eyelid at the fact that it's a girl, you know.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because of the power dynamic with her being the boss, and then we're like, well, you know, can you really say this and admit?
I get that. I feel like that sometimes in our society and even in movies and stuff, like, if you're a guy that enjoys sex, well, that's okay. You're a guy. But if you're a girl that enjoys sex, then there's this thing where it's like, you must be bi as well. Like, you must be okay with girls and guys. Like, that's it. I just felt like it was too stereotypical of that type of character, in my opinion. Like, I think they could have had that same storyline and had it been a male boss, and I would have not felt like, hey, they're trying to shove two homosexual storylines into one season at me.
I feel like Keely would not have stayed in that relationship had it been a man. I think she would have gotten out of that relationship faster if it had been a guy.
For me, that storyline didn't add anything. And now that I'm thinking about it, even if it was a male boss, I just don't know that really adds anything to me for her character or for the story itself.
The thing it added, in my opinion, is she got out of a relationship with Jamie, and then she gets into a relationship with Roy. Roy breaks that off, and then she ends up in a relationship with someone of the same sex as her. I like that was almost their way of going, no matter what she does now, it won't work. There's no option C, option D to this. It's like, male or female, she needs to just be with herself. She needs to focus on who she is. She needs to make this business she's trying to do into something and have that define her, instead of it being who she's dating that defines her all the time, because that is sort of part of her character in the beginning of the series. And when you get to the end, it is like she does not need anyone else to define who she is. She just needs to have that business and have it working well and show she's capable on her own terms. Yeah. And that was the other thing, having that boss. It was not on her own terms. Like Rebecca said, she's love bombing you. She's constantly doing all these really nice things. And it's the same, like Jamie had his own way of doing that, where, it's the fame angle to it. Roy had it where he was emotional with her in a way that he couldn't be with other people. This other woman had it, she could buy whatever she wanted for her and all that. So in my opinion, it wasn't necessarily the homosexual or the lesbian, whatever you want to call it. It's flat out she just doesn't need anybody. She just needs to be herself for a while.
I felt like we were there at the end of season 2. I think they devolved her character. Like, at the end of season 2, she is now grown into this businesswoman. She, even though, like, Roy schedules this vacation for him, and she's like, I kind of really have to go do this other thing, and I'm doing this my own thing. And then you get into season 3, and now she's dependent on somebody else again. To me, it felt like a step back for that character. I just didn't enjoy the story. I didn't buy it. So.
She wasn't quite there yet, though, in season 2 at the end.
I mean, that's a very realistic thing where people they'll take a step forward where they do get to that point, and then they fall back into old habits.
Yeah.
Where someone else is doing it. Did it add a lot to her story? I don't think so, but the whole getting involved with the boss thing is definitely, like, I'm pretty sure everybody watching was like, no, the getting involved with your boss is bad.
Yeah. It was the same with the Sam and Rebecca thing, which they didn't really finish, I felt.
They had a nod to it, and that was the extent of it in the when they were watching You've Got Mail. But otherwise, that was a little weird for me, where they did that little moment, but nowhere in the rest of the season did they have anything where the two of them even hinted that something had been between them at one point or another. And so it was, yeah.
And that never got out as a scandal was a bit strange as well, I think. Especially as some of the players knew it, I'm sure.
Again, impossible in real life.
Yeah, yes, maybe. Yeah. But who wants to see just an entire series of just Roy on that holiday without Keeley for 6 weeks? That sounds like fun to me. That would be good, yeah.
Just watching him be uncomfortable going into the masseuse or something.
Yeah, just in the Bahamas, with no kind of people he can relate to other than, there's a couple of Americans and a few Europeans, and he's like...
I think I would have been crying tears of just laughter compared to crying tears of what I did at the end of the show.
And then by the end of the 6 weeks, everyone's just eating out of his hand, and he's got everything running like clockwork, and then he's off.
Like Idiot Abroad, but, grumpy Brit abroad.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I do have... I have a question here specifically for the EuroLegions podcast guys. We got into a little bit of this, but what's something you would want specifically Americans to know about going into this show that may or not be accurate or like what you might feel is like a misrepresentation or something that they might not get coming into? Is there anything like that you guys can think of?
I mean, there's probably quite a bit, but I wouldn't let it spoil your enjoyment of it. For me, you have to remember it's fiction, and
sure,
they're going to make allowances to make it work for them. I think what the guys have mentioned already is probably it, is that some of what goes on probably wouldn't stay very private, and the Premier League in England is absolutely massive. If you're in the Premier League, even people who don't follow football are going to know who you are to some extent, because they'll see you all over their papers, all over their TV, day in, day out. So that's probably one of the things. Some of it probably wouldn't happen the way it happens.
Okay.
And the other one, although it's going to happen next season, a club that looks to be as small as Richmond, in a place as small as Richmond, probably wouldn't get into the Premier League just because of the money side of it.
They certainly wouldn't.
Although, I mean, as Rich said, they wouldn't have a chance of being in the top two of the league. But we are going to see a situation next year when a little town called Luton is going to be in the Premier League, and their stadium is such that you go through. Well, it basically is almost looks like the door of a house in a row of houses. So there isn't entirely.
Oh yeah, do Google Luton Town Stadium. It's literally like it's mental. Like some of the part you have to climb up these stairs through kind of a housing estate to get into the stadium. Their stadium is directly behind roads of terraced houses. Yeah, terrace. Does that make sense to Americans?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's all joined up. And and for the away entrance, all they did was knock the ground floor out of two of those terraced houses, kept the upper floor, and then that's how the away fans get into the ground. Yeah. So basically, they're walking underneath someone's flat to get into the ground, which is just crazy.
Yeah. So would that be a prime real estate for the people living in that house, or would you think they hate living in those houses?
Oh God, no, they hate living.
No, that's social housing or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But for me, it's just the what it doesn't reflect is the amount of money involved in this whole thing. Like, okay, there's the odd thing where one of them is driving a Lamborghini or whatever, but like it's like that's pennies compared to what really is going on, and there's no real. It doesn't really show you how rich Rebecca actually is. I mean, she would not be as kind of humble and as kind of down to earth as she is, which wouldn't make the show. It would be awful. But someone in that position is like, they have people, they have servants for clipping their nails, it's literally that level of richness,
So like the scene,
just having a maid.
Billionaires,
Yeah.
So like the scene with the whole team in the hotel lobby deciding whether to go to a strip club or a restaurant would not
No,
would
they'd be
probably-
coming to
Right. That's kind of
be like, yeah, the conference room 3 is the strip club, conference room 4 is the nightclub. You know,
Well,
take your
that's-
point. You know,
when she asked about how much would it be if she sold it, and he said $2 billion.
yeah.
For me, watching that, not having
like,
you said,
whoa.
there's no
No context. Yeah,
here's the bar, and then all of a sudden that number gets thrown out there. Like, I figured it would have been 100 million, say, or something like that, and all of a sudden to throw a B at the beginning of it, I'm like, I had no idea. Like, this did not seem
also
like that level of something. So.
which also makes it a little bit hard to believe how she. And it also makes it more admirable in a way, but how she actually loves it so much, and she loves the whole club and the concept and the team and the players, that she would turn that down, because that's literally do what you want money. That's literally all your problems.
That's
in terms
never
of
worry
money
about
are,
anything for the rest of your
then
life.
you do what you want to do, and but she's obviously decided this is what I want to do, so it's way more important for me to do.
I still do shooting the shelf with Jesse, even if I
Imagine how many Legions all ins you get
with his gold detolfs wrapped around him.
Yeah.
You could just
Kirkman's
mess.
bringing him
You could
things
just
during the
mess
show.
with. You could just mess with Kickstarters on Kickstarter. You just pledge 100 million to like a
And
tiny
still
little
be sitting here with
Kickstarter and watch them try and deliver it.
I'd be still sitting here with my Christmas/fairy lights while Curtis is going to have like a full production crew doing his hair and makeup.
He's gonna have a crown.
Could you,
and all
could
that
you
stuff.
imagine? Could you imagine putting like 3 million into Rodriguez's Kickstarter and watch him try to produce that? It's like, oh, now you have to make 50,000 of those dinos.
We'll go through the newest
50% of them are
Legion
Millway.
wave, and
I'll just order the same one as well.
we'll go through the
All the
newest,
translucent
newest Mythic Legion wave, and I'll just talk to the 4 horsemen that are sitting next to me. I just got them on retainer.
Yeah.
Legion's Con is no longer in New Jersey.
Curtis would like
4
another
horsemen.
Templar.
Yeah,
He's moved the 4 Horsemen Studios to Missouri. They've set up shop.
Yeah.
They live in the undercroft of his mansion.
all shipping is free.
Yeah. and
And
he
he
shall
now
now
owns YouTube.
forevermore be the inevitable.
You have Diego just bring them up from the basement warehouse to Curtis whenever he just clicks the button.
On a red pillow.
We bypass customs so that your figures don't get stuck in customs.
There
So,
you go.
Just private jet them.
And now
over
he's throwing
to
out the bones to
different
everybody.
places.
See you
Oh,
later.
yeah.
The fact that we have gone this far about this shows how much he's already thought of this. That's the thing that worries me the most.
All right, I know Curtis is really going to love this topic. So, Curtis, if you
Boy.
need to take a time out, feel free. The
Jesse,
music
can I just
on
pitch
this
in
show. Oh yeah,
very
yeah,
quickly?
yeah.
Sorry,
Yes.
Shawn, your 100 million was closer to what a club like Richmond would be worth.
oh wow.
Cool. Okay, at least I wasn't
If
off
they
on
got
that.
if they got 200 million, it would be a miracle.
Okay.
Never mind 2 billion. So
Well, that,
the really really big clubs are worth 2 billion, but a club that size nowhere near.
yeah, the scale.
Even
of
if they
it,
got themselves up, like they performed really well and got to
Even then,
sustainable
yeah,
basis.
because
No, but like if they were second a couple of years in a row now, they'd start to get up there. No,
gotcha.
They need a
No.
bigger stadium. A much
yeah,
yeah,
the-
that's
the
what-
fan-
so
the
what would
fan
the
base would be too
what
small,
West
the
Ham-
stadium would be too small.
yeah.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
way
see-
West Ham was portrayed in the show, what would that be closer to the 2 billion mark, or would that be way more?
Not
but they
in
do
real
have
life,
a
'cause
massive
West,
stadium because West Ham used the former
do.
Olympic Stadium. 2012 Olympics.
Yeah.
They actually got that stadium because it was just going. I guess there was some financial transaction
pay
involved, but
they pay ridiculous rent. I think it's like $1 million a year.
okay.
What did
Okay.
Chelsea
Something
go
embarrassing.
The
to?
fans hate it because there's a running track between the field and the pitch, and they hate it because it's too far away from the pitch.
I'm
Oh,
sure Chelsea only went for about 2 billion.
No, they were 4 or 5 to Todd
Were they?
Bowley.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
and
Yeah,
Chelsea,
he-
that
he-
was
he
the
played-
team Jamie played for, right? No, that was
No,
No,
Roy's
that was
original
Man
team.
City.
That's what
That
Roy
was Roy
played for.
team. Yeah,
That's
yeah. That was Roy's team. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Chelsea went.
3.2 billion for Chelsea.
Okay.
Yeah, so a club like Richmond nowhere near that. And again, football value is all based on probably the same as America. It's based on fan bases. So if you've got massive worldwide fan base, you could be worth a fortune.
Yeah.
Richmond, even if they had a couple of good seasons, wouldn't have a big worldwide fan base. They just wouldn't be worth
Okay.
that much money.
But you sign like in the last season, you sign a Zava type player. That's how you make the club.
What about
really
like
wealthy?
That'll help. Definitely. Yeah.
What about like them having the fans there for practice in the last season? Would that ever happen?
That could, but it would be maybe a one-off, or it wouldn't be it kind of seemed to be a bit regular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a funny thing. Maybe to my two podcast colleagues here, why were they always in the pub when the match was on? If they're living near the stadium.
Yeah.
I know it made for good TV and all, but like they're in the stadium for the training, and then they're with another amazing character, May.
There's a really simple reason, John, for that. It's called season tickets.
That's what I was going to say.
Or
superstition.
They always watch from the pub, so they always have to watch from the pub.
The other, I kept thinking they put so much money into just going to the pub and drinking beer. They don't have money for tickets, so they just do it.
There could be.
That's the end of it, And like I got a kick out of the fact they each could afford one buy-in for the team at the end, but then the woman that owns the bar has a stack like this. It's like, yeah, that's all your pub money going to that. And it's like it's like the pre-order situation. If you after that figure,
one of my favorite kind of one-liner or little comedy bits is when she's asking them, how many beers do you want? So like 4 beers. And it's like, no, if you want enough beers until halftime, how many do you want? 12. That is literally correct. There's no exaggeration there.
I think maybe they were trying to work in some of kind of that homegrown Americanness that Ted has in having the fans at the stadium. Because that, not knowing what the culture of that is like over there myself, it seemed like, I don't think people can go watch. I remember when I was a kid, they don't call them this anymore, but the Washington Redskins, like American football team, would practice at the Carlisle High School. And I remember one summer my dad was painting a house and in Carlisle, and I would ride my bike and I would just like walk up into the stadium, sit and watch. I don't know why. It was something to do. Like I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm 9. I know this is like a big football team, but I was like, and then eventually I stopped going and just played at the playground. But it kind of had that kind of vibe to it. But
all right,
they don't
get to your music question.
Well, Rich has got a follow up here.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, they don't tend to have fans watching the training sessions. I support a team called Liverpool, much to Malcolm's horror because he supports our arch rivals. But Liverpool had their old training ground, which they had about a year or so ago, had a high fence, about an 8-foot fence. But the locals used to get bins and just stand on bins and watch them practice, which used to drive the manager mad. He was like, no, this is ridiculous. We do training drills, we do plays, we can't have this. So now we've got a brand new ground and no one's allowed anywhere near it to see. And can I just chuck one more thing in as well? The one thing that annoyed me, I think, more than anything else in this series is the fact they had the same changing room. Whether they were at the practice pitch or the match, they were always in the same changing room. And it drove me mad. It's like, no. They have practice pitches miles away from their ground.
Oh, okay.
And then they have the ground. They don't practice in the ground. That's just not a thing in football. So when they're coming into the changing room after a training session, and then exactly the same changing room after a match, that just wouldn't happen in Premier League.
Okay. Interesting.
And it's a little thing, but it drove me mad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I obviously mentioned it lots because my wife was just like, "Will you stop going on about that?" You've said it every bloody episode. It's like, I know, I'm sorry.
I agree, Mrs. Jones. I agree.
Cheers, John.
Okay. All right. So my question that Curtis isn't going to want to have any part in is the music.
I will be there. I'm here.
Music for the show. A lot of great stuff, of course. I just blanked on his name. From Mumford & Sons helped write the intro and everything.
Yeah, he was involved heavily,
But is there, for you guys and for everybody, is there a certain song that stands out from the season that you either didn't know going into the show, not the season, but for the whole show, like that you weren't aware of before watching the show, or that they used a song you really like and that really struck at the right moment for you? Start with Shawn.
Oh, okay. So I texted you after I watched the final episode, and I I was like, they had me on so many places, but then they played Father and Son by Cat Stevens, and that broke me to tears because that song I equate to Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and that was hard enough to watch with the Yondu funeral, but to have it be these characters that are now, they're not these interstellar superhero characters. You're bringing it down on a level that I understand between me and my own son, and him dealing with missing his own son, and he's scared of losing his own son, and all the different relationships. My message to Jesse was, and then they played Cat Stevens, and that was all I had to say about that. He knew where I was with that, and I honestly, for the life of me, can't think of a single song that resonated the way that one did for the finale, because it brought it full circle in a way that I was not prepared for. I was not emotionally prepared for that on any level watching it on Wednesday. So, but I have heard that one before, and I really wish I could think of any other songs that really stood out in the previous seasons. Unfortunately, that's the only one I got right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pitch in at that point too.
Yeah.
That was the only song I remember. And I watched the final episode yesterday. I mean, that being too much of a downer, but I lost my dad a few weeks ago. And that song, just, I know it's about father and son and that sort of stuff. I was just in bits.
Yeah.
But it worked brilliantly, and they used it for a fabulous piece of music sort of thing. But that's the one that really hit home for me.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's quite a negative thing.
No, that's
John,
all right.
right
I just
Yeah, Stone Roses Waterfall on the last episode. I was just like,
Stone Roses.
What a track. I mean, I love the Stone. I was and because of that, I was the whole morning at home. My wife was off doing something this morning, so I was at home with the kids, and I had Britpop going like crazy on the speaker. The kids were going crazy. You know, they're like, "Oh, I want to listen." I was like, "No, we're listening to this." Yeah, sorry, but they liked it in the end, kind of. But yeah, no, it's just such a classic kind of. That's a nostalgia thing for me. It's, you know, we're all collectors. You know, this is how we met, through collecting toys, and the nostalgia thing. Music is even bigger than toys as a nostalgia for me. It just brings me back to a place in time, whether it be back at school or back in college or whatever it was. And it's that kind of thing, you know, that really, those kind of songs put me back in a place. And the whole soundtrack for this whole show was that every time there was a piece of music on, it was just spectacularly the right piece of music and at the right time and appropriate for the show. And, you know, a good mix between American and British, which I think, you know, my music taste would be the same. It would be, you know, kind of love loads of British bands, love loads of American bands. So, you know, we're right there with all of that. And of course, you know, if your show is on Apple TV, you got the budget for that kind of stuff, because that's where money comes in on that. But it does make a huge difference. You know, I don't know. There was some movie years ago that won an Oscar. I think it was No Country for Old Men. Didn't have a soundtrack. You know, I found that kind of unwatchable. You know, I find it so important to have good music in a show. It doesn't need to be dominant or whatever, or, you know, even just coming in at the right time occasionally, but it's a huge underrated thing until someone takes it away. If someone took it out of the show, you'd realize, oh wow, yeah, that does make a big difference.
Yeah,
totally agree.
My memory is not good enough. I would say, you know, I can only agree that the music is something that sticks in my mind. As it was fantastic all through. Not every song is going to be the one I love, but generally was good. But I couldn't name any specifics. I was just having a little look at Shazam, because if something's on and I can't, and even if I'm like, I know that, but I Shazam it.
I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, I Shazammed A Beautiful Game. I'm guessing that was from this final episode, which is an Ed Sheeran track. Never heard of that one before. Never. It was a football song. It might have been the one at the very end. But yeah, I couldn't remember any specifics really, but I can only echo.
And there was that French song at the end of season 1, the Je ne regrette rien, so I don't regret anything. That was perfect as well when I came in. You know the song if you heard it.
Yeah. I know the song.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of perfect, you know. for the
Curtis?
whole arc of season 1?
Through 2 seasons and 11 episodes, I couldn't tell you one song that they played or recall even that they had music. If you're saying that they had music, I'll have to believe you. But
And you did enjoy it. You just didn't realize you're enjoying it.
I just don't recall even hearing music for 2 seasons and 11 episodes. But I will say, along with Shawn, I was trying to get through the last episode without crying. And I told these guys, Jesse and Shawn, a million times, like Guardians 2, I've seen it countless times. And every time I bawl like a fucking baby. Like it's terrible at that Yondu scene. And as soon as Cat Stevens started playing, I was like, these motherfuckers.
No,
like these, like I can't believe they just fucking did that. And so then I'm like sitting there trying to hold it together, and they're showing kind of where everybody's ending up after the season, and I just lost it, and I was like, you bastards. So
it's a nice emotional release, though, no?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's a favorite. I wouldn't say I learned it, to Jesse's question, but it's the only song for the entire series that I even recall. And it did bring up emotional vibes. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say for me, there were 2 songs, because I'm going to ask specifically for one, but there was 2 that really stood out to me. And one of them was, drawing a blank, from season 1, the Bring It On Home to Me.
Yeah.
Oh crap, who is that? But that one, because this is the episode, I think, where Michelle and his son come to visit, and like they're hanging out in his flat and everything, and it's like, there's stuff going on between them. I think it was, building up to him being able to say, like, I'm gonna let I'm not gonna hold on. If you need to go, you can go, kind of a thing. So that song really hit.
Sam Cooke.
Yeah. Thank you, Nate.
There you go.
I was gonna try looking up my phone, but I knew I would stop talking and just like go, like I glitched out here. So the other one was from the end of episode 11 in season 3. Because the song, I had never heard it before, and when I looked it up, like I thought it was a Queen song, but it's by a guy named Sam Ryder, and it was called Fought and Lost. And it actually has Brian Mays on guitar for the song.
There you go.
But just the voice, you could easily hear Freddie Mercury singing that song the way he sings. Like that song wrecked me. Like I actually called into work and I was like, I'm gonna be late today. And I had like a 4-hour like I was like, I can't function right now. I'm just done for a while. Because the song, like it kind of takes the whole thing. It's better to have loved and lost and never loved at all, but it's fought and lost. So it's about like how, it's such a really good song. It just really hit me. And like, I ended up listening for like 3 hours at work the next day when I, just the whole scene when it's playing out. Cause you see they had won at, was it Man City, where they'd won against Jamie's old team.
Yeah.
And you have that whole bit with like his mom and stepdad and like that whole dynamic. And then you see his dad's 2 friends in the stands, like toast to Jamie's dad. And you're like, oh man, what happened to the dad? And then you see him in the rehab, just that brief second, and he's just smiling for his son. Like that wrecked me. That was just like, took my legs right out from under me. And yeah, that was it. And
that was really well done, that whole thing with Jamie and the dad and how it ended up. I actually thought at that point that actually maybe he was in, that he was gone a bit kind of crazy from maybe the punch to the head, and he was like in a kind of an old folks home type of thing. But nice at the end, then the redemption that they get together. Curtis has got his hand up. So
question for Jesse. So you're saying that it wrecked you and you had to be late for work, and then the next day you listened to it at work all day, like you were just trying to torture yourself?
That's music. Yes. That's music, Curtis. When you've got the muse, you have to. It's like part of your soul. You have to get it out.
I didn't mean to listen to it for 2 or 3 hours straight. I just had it on, and next thing I knew, I was like, oh man, it's like people are like some of my coworkers leave like an hour or so before me. So like I was suddenly aware of the time. Like I was just so lost. And I usually never listen to a song on repeat that much, but
Yeah, no, sometimes my wife has to tell me, like, can we stop listening to the same shit in the car all the time? And I'm like, yeah, but I need to get this out of me. You know, it's just, I've discovered this.
Yeah.
I fucking love it. And it needs to get me out. Now, it's usually an album. It's not just one song, but, you know, but yeah, sometimes she's my kind of, she's not as, you know, she likes music like most people, but she's not kind of like me. I get obsessed by certain music
I'm kind of like that when people
time.
talk about music. It's just like,
Yeah.
we have to keep listening to this. Like, come on.
Yeah, and I mean, that's perfectly normal reaction. It doesn't have to be part of, you know, but there is certain people, you know, I used to spend hours, you know, in record shops. You know, that was kind of my hobby, kind of on my lunch hours when I worked in cities, in offices, you know. Before we got fucking Spotify and Apple Music, and now you can get everything, and it's kind of taking the good out of it. I know that's awful, but I can guarantee you, if Mythic Legions just started arriving at your door for free, the good would be gone out of it. there is a chase element to everything, you know. There is. I mean, we'd like it, but you know, you still making something a little bit hard to get.
Well,
if any of the horsemen are listening,
feel good, you know.
If any of the horsemen are listening,
I'd like to remove myself. Yeah.
I'm happy to test the hypothesis out. It's fine.
Everyone but John.
And that's why you don't have your tactics figures yet.
Yeah, they're testing.
They're trying to build that tension, you know, so that when you get
I've already drafted the eBay listings for those.
be the last person on earth to receive your tactics.
Yeah,
figures.
I'm just gonna get I think I have two packs in that parcel. I'm just gonna take one because I need those two, and I'm just gonna.
The good news is by the time you get them, they'll be in high demand again. You know,
exactly. Yeah, that's probably worth it financially great. Yeah, or else I'll need to sell them on eBay to pay the customs bill. I don't know what to do. Anyway, we don't need to bore the shite out of people with this. You know? That's going to be every.
You can just bring them with you back at Legions Con in your.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If they do somehow ridiculously send them back, then I will actually just say to the horseman, just put them in a bag, take them out of the box. I'll pick them up with you, and we're good to go. You know, I'll put them in my hand luggage.
I'll tell you what, John, you do that, and then you can copy me when I pick up my AWOC figures finally from because they're never going to ship those ever to anybody who doesn't live in America. So yeah,
but and I will shout it out.
They're going to wait till they get to what is it, like the fifth wave, and then they're going to ship all 5 waves at once.
Yes,
so,
and poor Rich has only got wave 1 and 2 ordered. You know,
orders.
No, but I will say, and I'll talk about it in our own show, but I did reach out to the customer service on the Horseman side, so the games team first, just to make sure that like they hadn't got some queries about this package and blah, 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 and they needed to, because often they go back to the sender, you know. And they were very quick, and they got in touch with the Horseman, and they got back to me, and everything was, you know, no, we don't know anything about it. We haven't heard anything, so, you know, all good. So I will shout them out, you know, just to be fair.
I hope they arrive to you soon.
Yeah, it's no big deal, you know. There's plenty of shit to be getting on with.
I think it makes for good episodes.
It's good comedy. Yeah. I have a lot of people that are actually going to be disposed when these finally arrive, I think.
Yeah. Like I would have been listening to episode 25. Yeah, episode 25 of EuroLegions.
And I'm just going to get more. I'm just going to get more and more good humored about it, just to really, really sell the effect. You know,
the episode that we lost, Curtis.
Yeah.
The episode that we lost, that we recorded, we wound John up no end at the end of that about these things, and then the bloody thing didn't save, and you're like, "Oh, I can't do it again."
I want to hear him.
I have my audio. I have my audio from
that. Jesse's falling over there.
What the heck?
My a box fell off the wall.
Oh.
Was it a tactics figure?
No,
He's the devil, and it'll throw itself at you.
It's just an Ahsoka figure.
So, okay. She's trying to. She has a series coming soon, doesn't she?
Yep. But there's a tab, and the tab like broke out of the tape or whatever.
Oh.
It just freaked me out because I thought it sounded like some of my legions were going to attack me.
Oh, geez.
Death by legions.
Never good.
It's that time of year where it's getting hot outside, but I have the air on, but
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
on all the time. So it's like the joints are like loosening in some
Oh, yeah.
things. And
I think Rich made a reference to that recently, that soon the season when the 2.0 figures start to go like this on the shelf.
Yeah, they just hurl themselves off. Just look at them funny and they're down.
Yeah, you
had
need to
some
get
of that
those
recently.
figure
I didn't even put that together, but yeah, I had the other day I woke up and I'm like, why are my figures down? Like, yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, since we have naturally transitioned to this, we were hoping to talk a little bit about legions before the end of the show. So before we jump into that, any last thoughts, comments on Ted Lasso, or have we yipped ourselves out on that?
I think overall, a really excellent show, well worth watching. And I mean, I think the most important thing about this is you don't need to give a rat's ass about sports or football or anything like that. It's just a human story, and there's lots of great arcs in it, and it's not cheesy, which is really, really important and really, really good. There's cheesy bits in it, and obviously Ted can sometimes come across as a bit cheesy, but at the end of the thing, he's such a glorious character, and the best thing that makes his character is that he's so tortured behind it in a way, and that he manages to overcome that, but also that that he couldn't live away from his son for any longer is that's completely relatable.
I got a question for you guys. At the end of the series, do you get the impression that he's back with his wife, or no?
It almost seemed like that, didn't it? Because she was waiting for him.
Yeah, like he's bringing his luggage inside her house, and then they show her at the game, like rooting for the team, but the other guy isn't there with her, and
other guy was
seemed kind of interested or seemed kind of irritated at the guy during the match. So I couldn't really tell. Like it was, I don't know.
I feel like it left me with a feeling that they were working on it. Maybe not 100% back together, but working on it.
That he's on the couch or in the spare room, maybe, or until he gets back on his feet. But he can either get his own place, or maybe it goes another direction for him.
So, do we think we're getting a season 4?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Maybe we should wrap up with that. Yeah, do we think we're getting any further? And how would you do it if
they've already said no? So I think
how have they?
Yeah.
Have they really though?
They've said, well, they were quite cryptic. They said no to this part of his journey. In fact, they didn't use that exact word, but it's effectively what they said. So I think
would you watch it without Ted? Would you watch season 4, Roy managing the team?
I don't think you could have Ted Lasso without Ted. I think if they did a season 4, I think it's Ted back in America taking over some other team. And kind of
like the Miami football team or something,
whatever. Yeah.
That makes me sad though. I mean, I love Ted. I'm not going to say I don't love Ted, but like a lot of this show was the ensemble, and there is a part of me that I would absolutely love it. They just go AFC Richmond the series and do like maybe 2 or 3 seasons of just here's how here's how they work now. They take what Ted started, and they have their own version of that now, with Roy being a more healthy, mentally healthy character. And you still have Beard as the backbone.
Beard is the key there, then,
Yeah, you need
to make it work.
in there. And then on top of that, you still have people like Nathan, who they look at Ted very kindly now because of what he did for them. Rebecca, I mean, my God, like that was one other thing. The sequence with them at the airport on the finale.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Like that look that she gives with those tears in her eyes. I'm like, I can't not have a moment watching her have this moment. And it's like
I had plenty of moments watching her.
Well, I can imagine. You wanted to be
slightly different.
The guy in Amsterdam, didn't you? You wish you were the guy in the boat in Amsterdam. Because
I wouldn't be that alpha, but yeah, I'll take it.
But
he was so not alpha though. Like
he was alpha, but like he was so perfect. Like he was alpha, but with like a cream center, or I don't know. He was like exactly what you think you would imagine that a woman might want, kind of
It-
rugged, but like with a soft kind of heart and all feeling and, understanding, and then he can fucking cook, and, it's like, fuck off, leave my wife alone.
Yeah, I tell you what, that guy had to think that he won the jackpot at the end, though.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you're with this, because he doesn't know who she is, and then you find out she's got billions, and it's like, hey,
I mean, the Dutch are big into their football, so he knows all about football and all that kind of stuff.
The other thing that I can't believe I completely forgot about this from season 3. And now, like, I went the whole serious way in one of my favorite moments of the show, but one of my favorite moments of season 3, actually, that's funny, is Jamie teaching Roy how to ride a bike in Amsterdam.
Oh,
that whole sequence, that whole episode was great, but just that in general, because I love that where they're like, "Here's to your uncle," and then you just see him go,
I literally screamed laughing when he did that thing in the bike. It's literally the most slapstick humor, but like I literally bawled. It was so funny.
He's like, "My uncle wanted to teach me how to do that, and then he died, and then I didn't do it. Now that I think about it, it probably would have been a better thing to his honor, so that I would have done it." And I love that he did that whole explanation.
That
then
also reminded me in season 2 where Roy had to take McAdoo to kind of, play like this, side game and kind of learn to enjoy the game and have fun again. That was a really good segment too.
Especially as you can imagine, Roy never enjoyed the game either.
Right.
You run on the grass like you're angry at it.
But that was another funny thing that, like, on reading up the characters after, I always kind of do. I don't know about you guys, but when you're catching it, like as I said to you maybe before we started, I was letting season 3 load up and watch it in a binge. And then obviously when you said, "Do you want to come on the show?" I was like, okay, I got to get up to speed here. So when I kind of got up to speed, and you kind of, then I start to do the whole IMDb and a bit of Googling on the different things that I'm into. And Beard, obviously being my favorite character, looked up a bit about him. He lived for 10 years in Amsterdam. Brendan Hunt, the guy that plays him. So that Amsterdam episode then kind of, I think he wrote that one as well. And the way he spoke Dutch at some stage at the end, I think he actually does speak Dutch in real life, which makes
he's
it
getting out of the bus.
Yeah. And that's what I love about Beard. You can imagine you stick him in like Poland or like Russia, well, maybe not Russia now, but some foreign place in Europe, and like he just suddenly just starts speaking the language because I know that because I've read it, I've read 42 books on Russian language or the German language, kind of while I'm in between reading my soccer tactics.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think Brendan Hunt would be a guy who probably has citizenship in Vatican City just based on that. Like, I honestly think he probably just pulled from his own life on that.
Yeah, it was just like, oh yeah, let's go to my CV or what have I got? Yeah.
Let's
stick that in. Yeah.
I will say
because his Irish accent was sweet. Yeah, I did. That's when I first IMDb'd him. I was like, he must have an Irish parent,
When Will was subbing in his fake Coach Beard the one day,
and
you don't know it, and it just cuts over. You just hear him, "Yeah, baby." He's got like the tape, like that had me rolling. That was great.
And he's like, obviously Will is someone that has to work his ass off to kind of cleaning all the stuff, and like he's doing actual work. That's what I always talk about these these people when you work in a big company, whatever. There's always people that actually do actual work. We sit behind computers and do work, but and then he got the pleasure of like his feet up reading the book, and he must be just sitting there for an hour, and then suddenly Beard comes in, and he's like, "Get on the shit, I gotta do work." I gotta do my
things like that. You were talking about like Will playing Beard, and then like I don't know why it got me so much, but just in that last episode when Roy goes whistle. I don't know. I loved it.
Philip, he has a metal allergy. That's why we won't give him one. You want a plastic one? No.
I love Roy.
Oh man,
good stuff.
And him.
Any other thoughts on that before we move into Legions?
No, just that if there is a season 4, we're getting the band back together to talk about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like if they
down
do,
with that.
I feel like they'll either continue stuff with the British side of it, or they'll do
Yeah.
stuff with Ted's side of it. I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to be Ted in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that if they did the American angle with Ted as the focus, they could certainly drop in the odd character, either for a cameo episode or something, which would be super fun. Or obviously then you follow the whole Roy managing Richmond thing, and then Ted maybe pops up as a, maybe he just visits or whatever, But super
I'm with
cool.
Shawn though. I'd 100% watch an AFC Richmond series.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What if it's the
Damn
AFC women's team? Would you watch that show?
If it's as well written, yes.
Yeah. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter.
From like season 1, he'd always see the one girl playing soccer better than I'll do legit football better than the boys. And like I kept going, I really hope that they could do something with her, because I love that he saw her and not everybody else was giving her as much cred. And then when Keely put that on Rebecca's desk at the end, I'm like, oh, please let that focus on her. That would be freaking great that they did that.
That would be amazing.
Leading up to if they did a series or whatever like that, and she could be one of the main
part
characters.
of it. That can obviously be a side story or a parallel story. I love the walks, Ted walking out of the apartment to work.
Everybody calling him brilliant. And all that.
I can imagine the filming of those scenes must have been just so much fun for those actors. You're in an iconic kind of, because that is real, like London somewhere. That is a real street in London, and they probably do maybe 6 or 7 of them in a day or whatever. But that must be just.
And you really have people calling you wanker when you're watching.
Well, as in a football sense, but that any swear word in Britain, Ireland, whatever, the inflection point depends on whether it's a compliment or abuse. It's like,
I'll say this: the 4 times I've been to England, I've always been treated very nice, and at least within earshot, no one has called me anything offensive.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, like one of my best friends here now, so I'm a golfer, right? Okay, pretty boring sport to most people, but I'm quite good at it. Rich likes it, but
John,
so I know a lot of the reason I know a lot of expats in Luxembourg through golf. I know most of my people I know are like locals and totally different to me, but I know a lot of people from the islands that I call them, so either Ireland or Britain, through the golf. And there's one guy I met about 10 years ago, and he's a couple of years older than me. He's now retired kind of military Air Force guy from UK, and his dad was Irish. And after about 2 hours of meeting with him, I said, I think I know you well enough now to call you a cunt. And we've been friends ever since.
Well, there you go.
So that's kind of how we get along over here, Would you agree with that, boys?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
If you can't call me a bad word, then
okay.
It's pretty tricky.
So then,
situation.
I guess I didn't make any friends while I was there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, come on, you were on holidays, and they of course they see nice American man, and they go, well, I need to be respectful here,
Yeah,
they hear my accent and they go, oh my god, gotta say bad words to him.
if I get to Legions Con and I get the 3 of you guys to call me a cunt, I'll think that I succeeded somewhere. So.
Oh yeah, old man kind's in love with me because I kept calling him that.
All right. So we're gonna go transition into All Stars, and I don't think we're gonna go through each and every character because I know you guys are gonna do your own thing on your show, and
sure,
I don't want to rob the fans of that. But we'll just kind of want to see what your guys' initial thoughts are of the wave as a whole. Any that call outs in terms of characters that you really absolutely love or don't work for you. And I'm just going to start from the bottom of my screen, and I got Rich. So Rich, what's your thoughts overall, and any favorite or least favorite characters?
I absolutely loved it. I think almost as much as the Necronomous wave, if I'm absolutely honest.
Mm-hmm.
It was a genuine surprise at not a surprise because all the figures are cool, but how many there were. I wasn't expecting 7, but also how many just really cool characters there were. John and I have talked a couple of times on the show about Vikings. So to get a couple of undead Vikings was just glorious. That made me very, very happy.
What a
they're super cool. I mean, the head sculpt on this one with just a part of the face sticking out, but still the dwarf beard and all that sort of thing is just brilliant.
I heard someone say today that they want to rebuild that with the human parts, the dwarf guy. That would be fun, huh?
I can see that. And any least favorites out of them, the wave?
Well, if I go back just one step, so I think my favorites. And I'm a big Skelly guy, as everyone who's ever seen me post any customs knows. But my favorite is actually Sir Andrew, of this wave, just for the backstory and the character and that sort of thing. It's just, I mean, the colors are incredible. The sort of pyromancer sword and the effect and everything like that are brilliant. But for me, I also like to Legion build, but with making them slightly different. So the fact he's got a group of people who are trying to redeem themselves with him, for me, is brilliant. It means I can get half a dozen of those figures, get some really cool custom heads on, little tweak here and there to the armor, and then I've got an awesome unit. So yeah, I love that because of that.
Yeah, when Joe was talking the story on that, I was going, oh my God, he's just sold Rich at least 3 of these.
At least half a dozen. Yeah,
because he was talking about the guard. He'd obviously made the figure. It looks cool, but then with the alternate helmet, take off the pauldrons, and I'm like, oh God, Rich is screwed here.
I figured it was going to be this guy. I figured you were going to Legion build this one.
Oh, he is. Don't worry.
Oh, I will do that as well. Yeah, I mean, let's be clear on that. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I do like my Legion buildings, so there's a good chance of that. Least favorite, if we're ignoring the previous release figures, because I hate Calavian. I don't. That's a waste of a vote, but never mind. If we avoid just of the new ones, I think it's probably the Ogre.
Wow!
I'm not a huge fan of armored Ogre size figures.
Okay.
I like the bare chest ogres and or just a little bit of armor and that sort of thing. So I think this is a brilliant figure. Don't get me wrong. I'm absolutely going to buy one.
Right.
But it's probably my least favorite because I just don't like armored ogres.
Gotcha. Okay. John, thoughts on the wave? Favorite figure, least favorite?
Extremely impressive wave. Firstly, from the 4 All-Stars, I mean, great variety this time. I mean, you think back to All-Stars, was it 3? And you got like basically all the same armor with all those figures, and very samey, but of course, filling holes in collections. So cool. Here, could have, like Rich, could have done without Calavian, although I will definitely pick one up because I don't have one. I did a custom, painted a Skeleton Legion builder red, fine. But Gorthok, I know you're partial to Gorthok, Curtis. I'm definitely going to try and find my way to getting. I did an all-in order, but I'm going to try and, from our local retailers here, get a few extra of him, custom. Just a custom head maybe, or switch up a bit of armor, something like that. You can make a little cool squad on your shelf there. For me, my favorite is Thorasis. I just love him. The Viking thing. I mean, I've been banging on about it on our show, the Northern Viking faction. I mean, look at that figure. The shield, I mean, oh my God. I love the raised shields that they do. Amazing. Rich is really into customs from Rich Kais. He's had a few. He made a beeline to his table at Legions Con. This reminds me of something Rich might do as a custom.
Love the bones showing through the soft
goods. And that's where the soft goods make so much of a difference, because if you had to sculpt that, I mean, the price that they'd have to kind of sink into that kind of a figure, the limited use they might have for that torso and another figure, but you got the amazing soft goods. And how are they doing the soft goods for this price, guys? I mean, look at that. That's worth $37, and you still got a figure on top of that.
Yeah.
And the dwarf as well for me. love the dwarf.
Yeah.
I have to
And
say.
any least favorites
Um,
other than the Calavian from the first four?
yeah, least favorites of what was revealed. Go down. Sorry. No, it's tricky. No, I couldn't say. I mean, of the previous releases, you could split hairs. I mean, even Sir Enoch. I mean, I'm kind of glad I didn't go too heavy on the Sir Elijah, just because you get the cape with this guy for the same price.
Well,
And
the
okay,
cape and then all of this stuff too. Like this,
all of that.
is
Yeah,
crazy.
the extra helmets as well. I mean,
Hands,
that's
helmets, weapons, shield,
and I prefer the
full
silver. I prefer the silver to the gunmetal.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's more silvery than gunmetal. So that's definitely sweet. I mean, no, it's tricky. I mean, Sir Andrew possibly, but look what you're getting. But then when Joe opened his mouth, you're like, oh shit, no, this is. I was like, oh, this just went from maybe I'm kind of fine with it to like, oh, I'm pumped about this.
Yeah,
Just,
getting Joe on.
and that's
talk
where.
about was genius.
But that's where you sell. I mean, Jeremy is the marketing manager. That's what he should be doing. That is perfect.
Yeah.
That's how to sell your figure. I mean, there's other people that would just look at it and go, cool figure, and I'll buy it. And they don't need to hear all of this stuff. But there is other people that, they're going to get one and then they might get four now because they've listened to Joe and they,
This look right here. Like if that doesn't sell you on this figure, I don't know what does. So
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that pose from Trevor too, to get that angle with a sword at that, and the flames just so good.
Mal, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've said before that the skeletons and the knights are not my favourites, but with the Necronominus wave and with what they've done in this wave, there is no question that the level of these figures is just another step up, isn't it, from what they've done previously? Everything looks incredible. My favourites are probably Scally Bone Splitter the Dwarf and Sir Andrew. Sir Andrew is probably, for me, the best knight they've done. I love that story.
Wow, there you go.
I love that backstory. It's just
I
so
love
cool.
these soft goods in the back, where it looks like wings and
the color combination too. They, that blue or the teal and the copper sort of thing.
Did you hear on the? I mean, we'll talk. I have noted it to talk about it on when we record. But one of your favorite figures, Rich, is what? The Jaguarian Balam.
Yeah.
And that teal matches his armor as well.
Okay, I'll be getting 12 of these then.
So I was straight away kind of spidey senses going, oh, Rich. Oof. And there was another. And then they gave two nice little hints to this one matches the gold skeleton. So, reinforcements. And also the blue that he has on him matches the Knight Legion Builder Deluxe.
Gotcha.
And I'm kind of thinking, well, they might be running those through the factory again for a little surprise drop at some stage.
Maybe.
When our wallets start to breathe and we think we've got a gap in the schedule.
The shield that Sir Andrew has, have we seen that before?
Yeah, that's came with the.
Yeah, it's the same one
the
that
Asian knight,
Elijah has.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also in the shields pack from Necronominus. They did this shield and they did the one with Sir Enoch, but they're like basic colors. They're like a blue. But they did both shields in that shields pack.
Is that the plug-in shield with just a very simple plug-in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and the other one's the same way. This one with Sir Andrew has a plug in it as well.
Yeah.
That's what made me ask, is because it looks like it's going to be utilized the same sort of plug.
Yeah, they've got that same simplistic boss in the middle, but then I'm assuming the cutout is the same on that shield and the elaborate shield.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really starting to, find efficient ways to use parts.
Right.
Yeah.
I love
Any
that.
least favorites, Mal?
No, I couldn't say. I mean,
Mal, come on.
Oh no, I genuinely couldn't. I mean, Gorthok, if you're going to push me, but of the new stuff, not one.
All right, you're off the stream.
Don't
Sorry.
make you
Sorry.
don't make Curtis off the stream.
I kicked him off. He's out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the new ones all look. They're, as I say, they're a step above everything
Yeah.
we've had before, sort of thing, aren't they? They all look incredible.
Shawn?
So for it's a tie for me when it comes to the villains because I love what's it, Baradoc.
Okay.
And I also love the I can't remember the first one, the firstborn.
This one,
yeah, Thrasis. That's it. So those were the two that the minute they showed them off, I was like, okay, I need to do my pre-order like right after this is over before we do our stuff. So those two, he reminds me. There were people in the Cabal talking yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, he looks like this, he looks like that." I don't know why he reminds me the most of the Ghost Army that Aragorn talks to in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
The Return of the King. So the minute I saw that, I'm like, I've always thought it would be awesome to have a figure that looked like that, even though I don't remember them ever making one. But in this line, that just spoke to me like crazy. So
he was glow in the dark.
Oh, well, I wasn't into the Lord of the Rings toys like this stuff. So, but that, and then for the knights, it's Sir Andrew because of the story and that, like you said, that shot of him holding the sword when it's on fire. It's like, that was the one where I'm like, okay, you're on my pre-order because I have to cherry pick. And I'm like, yeah, you made the cut based on that right there.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, yeah.
Jesse?
I got to go with Thrasis and the skeleton builder.
The
Raider.
Raider.
Yeah.
As your two favorites.
I mean, they're all awesome. Like, I don't dislike a single thing on this wave. Maybe the belt packs. No, I'm kidding. I like the belt packs.
I'm gonna kick you off the stream next. You're the next to go.
I just said that to get you riled up. I love everything on this. I love that we're finally getting the right shoulder pauldron for the with Scully. Those head packs are great. I'm gonna have to get a million more Tuberculi. And it just makes me excited with the heads pack because now it's like, are we going to get a fully fleshed out gorilla, wolf, and lion figure from the Horsemen and have like some sort of like Beastmen faction or subset or something?
Stop it.
have them fighting Vikings, and you got me and John buying millions of pounds worth.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So there's
meanwhile
so much good stuff.
Oh, I love that little stump. I need to buy another of the builder pack so I can have a headless soldier.
Oh yeah. You were going on about that in the previous episode, just about the headless horseman.
I love that they snuck that in there. I mean, they only used them.
And
on
then
the
some clown saying, "Oh, it doesn't look realistic." It's like,
okay.
There's always going to be some idiots and idiots.
Like I said,
skeletons
don't get up and walk around on their own either. So
yeah.
Your realism can step out the door at this point.
There is a point. Yeah.
All right, everybody's going to be shocked at this, but Sir Enoch is my favorite. I know.
What?
This is totally shocking, but I can't get over the value of this figure. Like, you got
it's ridiculous, Curtis.
Piece here,
ridiculous.
the waist piece, the torso piece, the cape over top of it, all of these, hands, two heads, weapons for $37. Like, it's crazy because, like, I've dabbled a little bit into like Mezco now, and this is basically a fully clothed figure at this point, pretty much. And if this was a Mezco figure, you'd be paying easy $95 to $100 for this. Yeah. So and even if you just bought a regular Templar, like the basic buckethead Templar, and you wanted to get this soft goods from Max Bird, it's going to cost you about $30 to get this kind of soft goods set. So for the same price as the soft goods set, you get all of that stuff with this. And to me, as much as I loved Elijah, this is even better. Like this is the ultimate Templar.
Yeah, you get the cape and the extra heads.
Yeah. So I love this thing. As far as least favorite, I'm just gonna say like I know Jesse's gonna argue with me because we've been arguing for the last couple days. But I just the old figures and this includes Gorthok too. Like I'm done personally with All Stars. Like I don't need another All Stars wave. I think when you sit here and look at these new figures that they've just offered us and you compare it to this stuff up here, it's night and day. And I know it's the same line. I know it's still supposed to be the same aesthetic and stuff, but the amount of stuff, the amount of details in the new figures versus the old figures, I'm ready to look forward. I don't need to keep looking backwards. I think new people to this line shouldn't be looking backwards. I don't care that Calavian was a $500 figure. It's not that great. And especially when you compare it to these other figures here. So I really, truly hope that this is the last year that we see All-Stars in the format that we've gotten. I hope that they move to something like a fan vote for an upgrade if they're going to do an All-Stars thing or something along those lines. But I'm done seeing these.
Or just let them do the 2.0s because then they have enough time to design them.
I'm done with old re-releases. So there you go. Now that's my piece, and then I'll let Jesse yell at me.
I can't yell at you for having an opinion that I disagree with.
All right.
I sort of have mixed feelings on it because I'm really happy to get both our Shadowhorn and Ignatius is such a good figure that and you know that armor is so unusual that I think it's nice for people to have the opportunity, but I don't disagree with you, Curtis. You're spot on. Sometimes, well, I think I said it about, I forget, yellow one is the Azar or Zazar, I forget. But he shows up, Azar, he shows up with the rest of that wave. And oh my goodness, the rest of that wave really showed him up for
I mean, even as much as I love this paint job, if they were to do this figure today, it would be even better. And it would have more things with it. And
you'd have the shield with the raised thing for a start.
But they're not going to do that figure today. So for people like me,
if they went to that format, and like I said, you vote on a character instead of to re-release, you vote on a character to upgrade. And what I'm saying is that both are Calavian, Gorthok, and Ignatius in this wave to me. And I love Gorthok. Like everybody knows, I'm a Gorthok fan. They're taking up 4 spots that could be used for something new, in my opinion. And I would rather have that new. I don't care what figure it is or how much they're going for aftermarket. I would rather have those 4 spots filled with something else. So,
I mean, just the fact that last year was the first year they added new stuff into that wave, the All-Stars wave, I think is a huge testament that I'm happy for the All-Stars because like I would not have paid for both our Calavian, Gorthok, or Ignatius had they not come into the All-Star wave. And maybe they're not huge characters, but in the lore. But I'm happy to have the chance to get them without
Are you going to buy all 4 of those?
Yeah, I got all 4 of the last ones.
Okay,
or 3 or whatever it was last year. The little sneak of the reissue Bailius in a dress.
I know that Treadaway doesn't like doing the re-release. I know that it's not great sellers for them because even when, like most people, if they buy Calavian, they're getting 1 Calavian. They're not going to army build Calavian when you can army build this guy. So it's not a moneymaker for them. And I just feel like it's run its course.
But it doesn't progress the story, isn't that the other thing?
When they've decided it doesn't make money for them and they move on from it, I'll be okay with that. But if they're going to keep offering it, I'll keep jumping on them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if they throw out a vote next year, I'm going to cast my vote as well. I hope they don't.
The other thing, though, if you think about it, is a lot of the characters that are winning are very older characters, typically. Mm-hmm. And then, like, when they get to the point where it's somebody like Brother Mandibulus, for instance, there's going to be a lot of people probably happy to vote for him and not have to pay $100 or more for him on the aftermarket compared to, like, I was never going to pay the however it was to get an Ignatius, because he is the only one out of the All-Stars that I was like, I really want to get him. The other ones, I was like, I was very like, if my votes end up being the winners, fine. If they don't, fine. But Ignatius is one of the last few I really wanted to get on my shelf. And I got him, so I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm like, this is just me filling a hole of something I hope to get, and I'm not wanting to pay for the top dollar stuff like the aftermarket.
Yeah, but you can see how that doesn't really make them a huge amount of money compared to.
No, I agree, and I can definitely understand that. But I also wonder if we get into some of the figures that some of us already might have. But some of these newer guys who just got into it, they might be looking for him and going, I'd rather pay $37 for a Brother Mandibulus than pay $150.
Oh no, I totally agree with that. But when it gets to Advent to Decay, the amount of stuff you get and the quality is higher than the original Kickstarter, which is what a lot of these are from.
And that's the other thing too. It's like I think the All-Star, I actually like that idea of vote for who should get the 2.0 instead of it being a surprise. Actually, I think that would be great. The other thing is it's almost gonna be like the snake eating its tail with All-Stars, because there is going to be a point where people will go, I don't care anymore because I've already filled in everything I need to because I've been with the line X amount of years, and there's been enough All-Stars to do that now or whatever.
Yeah, listen. Sir Ignatius is an awesome figure. This thing looks great. And as far as the old figures go, this thing's great. But when it comes to this wave, he's at best the fourth worst in this wave. At best. So, and that was an alumni voted, he's awesome figure. And at best, he's fourth worst in this wave. And that's just going to be the case continuing going forward. And there's not one of those All-Stars last year that was better than the new figures that we got. So, I just, like I said, I prefer they move forward.
Yeah, it's collecting versus, it's collecting and filling holes versus, actually, I want a lot of these figures to do customs and do, part swaps and pop and swaps and
army build and create stories and
Yeah, there is a big difference.
Yeah.
In the what you get, the quality. I mean, even on the vote, I think Jeremy Gerard said on his last show, if he was to vote by the best figure, to be Vortdog and Magnus, just purely based on what you got and all the stuff.
Yeah.
But people are voting on what the holes they want to fill in their collection. And I mean, the three of these All-Stars are figures I don't have, so fine. I'm I'm not complaining, because there's enough good gravy as well there that I can get on with it. I can pop the three new guys on my shelf, forget about them, and get all the new other figures and a couple of multiples of them and start going crazy on customs and whatever,
Yeah.
So I think that's a good mix up for me there.
So the other thing, which I don't want to go into too terribly, I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this, but they did change the Deacon character, the horse. So initially this had 2 crosses here, and they've switched that to the Order of Etheron symbol by Nate Barch, which is beautiful. And then they switched out the hood, which was a white hood with like red around the eyes. And they switched that out for this armor piece, which in this photo is not painted, but they are going to paint it.
It will be painted.
They have not indicated what color yet. I saw a couple of people asking Jeremy that, and he said he wasn't sure what color they were going to paint that yet. But initially, and this is really starting out, at least for the Euro guys, when you saw the reveal, did anything of that strike you as maybe this isn't going to work so well, or maybe this is going to be a problem?
No, not for me anyway. No,
not for me either. I just saw a cool horse.
Yeah.
I think the connotations, behind what sort of came to, what has been sort of talked about don't necessarily mean the same to us because we don't have the organization.
But
but
I think on a quick Google, or when it's pointed out, I can totally understand what's happened here, and I've zero problem with it. I'm sure as Mal and Rich as well.
Oh yeah.
It's more of a case of it's just not on our radar.
Right. And I think the same thing went for the studio. I mean, they're all, northern New England area folks. And, so even within America, this is it's as far as recognition and stuff, it's very regional. I'm finding, I live in Missouri, and this was kind of a battleground state for the Civil War. And it's very, there was some of with this organization here, and even growing up, that imagery of a white hood with the cutout holes, and even on a horse, because they did retrofit their horses with the same kind of outfit. As soon as I saw that, I was like, ooh, I don't know that they should have done that. And I know there was other people that saw that and kind of felt the same way. And clearly the studio didn't intend that. And then when they were alerted to it, that it had this similar imagery, I just think it's an amazing job on their part. They revealed this thing Friday night.
Absolutely.
And then we're going into a weekend, and it's that's their weekend too. It's Jeremy's day off. It's the studio's day off. And on the day off, they, kind of redid this thing. They went back to the drawing board, came up with this armored piece, which I guess from what they're saying is a piece that they already had in the works. It's already been tooled. They just hadn't figured out where they were going to use it yet. And then while they were doing that, they decided to replace the crosses with this Order of Etheron logo, just to make sure that they took away any sort of recognizability to, the thing that they were trying to avoid. So I think it was a good pivot on their part. I think it looks like, to me, it's a classy change from them to, say, okay, here's where, this imagery could, make certain people feel a certain way. And so we're going to go ahead and change this. And we're going to give you now this new armored piece, which it's really cool. Look, for a horse going to battle, I love this armored piece. And they did that all within one day based on, some feedback that they got from fans. I just think it shows that they're responsive to their fans. They listen to them. And it just came across, in my opinion, very classy. But what do you guys think?
Yep, as John said, personally, I completely understand why they would do what they did. I really, really like that headpiece that they.
Yep, me too.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rich.
No, you go, John.
Yeah, I mean, it's as Jeremy said in his post, it's not that they had people with the pitchforks kind of trying to go crazy at them. They just got a couple of people going, have you seen this? Maybe it's not the best idea. And then they suddenly went, oh damn, we didn't realize that this actually was this. And then they talked among themselves and decided this was the best approach. Because you've got a toy line, very successful toy line, fantasy toy line. You don't need to go there. And it's this pretty adult, normal decision. Do you want to go ahead with this because you're pig-headed and because, nobody tells you, what to do? Or do you look at it as a rational person and go, you know what, this isn't a huge difference. And actually, maybe it's even a bit cooler. Who knows? We can debate the pluses and minuses of that. But in this way, in a year's time, when these figures are delivered, nobody's going to post a picture on them online, and somebody's going to comment on the post going, "You're a dirty racist."
Right?
Everyone's going to go, "Oh wow, what's that?" And and that's the symbol from Fantasy Toy Line, and it's cool, So that gives the thing, and there is still the third-party shops that you can get a hood for a horse and whatever, if you want to go down that route. And there is people saying, why couldn't they put both angles in? Because they don't really particularly want you to be posting pictures of it. That's just it.
Yeah.
It's not that you buy it and you get it and you're offended. It's that you buy it and then you post a picture and then somebody else gets extremely offended and then it gets reflected back on the people that have no clue why people are offended on it.
Yeah, that's the key thing, isn't it? I mean, Jeremy was very, very clear, and it was a brilliant post, by the way.
Yeah.
He was very clear in that, saying, it's not because people were complaining to us, but as soon as even the vague chance that somebody could mistake this for a KK Clay horse, we were like, well, we can't do it because we don't want ourselves to be associated in any remotest possible way with that option.
But it's not like they pulled the figure. It's just they made a running change. It's not like, oh, we can't do this figure now because it's literally the whole concept of the figure is bad. It's like, oh, we can make a little tweak. You get just as much stuff in terms of like value for money, $65 or whatever it is.
Well, the people coming out and in my head, there's two lots of people coming out and making a fuss about the change. There's the people that just want what they want and they don't care if other people are offended. They don't care, and they're using it's traditional thing as an argument. It's like, well, it's not. I mean, common sense. No matter how traditional it is, if you've got any common sense at all, you'll know that you can't show that now that this has been flagged up. So they just don't care about it. Anyone else except their own feelings on the matter. And then you've got people in other parts of the world. So somebody, I'm not sure where in Europe, but somebody in Europe posted it earlier today. And I've not commented on any of these posts. It's like, I'm not getting dragged into this, but I felt the need to with him because he was like, where I am, and I'm thinking it was Spain, but I'm not certain. We have a Templar castle and we have people every year. There's a parade and, and they're wearing hoods. It's not the same as the KKK hoods, but it's hoods and there's the crosses and all this sort of thing. And I'm like, yeah, but the Four Horsemen, they mainly sell to Americans. It doesn't matter what we think over in here in Europe, whether we associate with it or not. They mainly sell to Americans. And if the Americans are worried about that and have experience of that sort of thing, then they have to change it. It's about the Four Horsemen's future. It's about what it looks like to anyone seeing this. So they needed to make the change, and they absolutely did the right way.
And I don't fault anybody that preferred the original look. Like if you preferred the original look and that's fine. But once what the problem was, not understanding why Four Horsemen had to change direction to me is like just you're coming across tone deaf, because if your stance is my preference on how this should look is more important than somebody being offended, then that's just stupid. You can prefer the original look, but you should still be able to understand why they had to do what they did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all the whataboutism of, oh, but what about this other figure and what about this other thing? It's like you're just trying to troll the conversation if you're at that. You are just a bad actor in the conversation if you're whatabouting on this. You're just literally, that is not an argument on anything. Politics, whatever you're talking about, sports, whataboutism is not an argument. Go back, think of a better argument and come back to me. That's not the point here. The point is this figure, the consequences of them releasing it like that, they didn't feel comfortable with it after that was pointed out to them very, very much in a calm, normal, somebody just tapping you on the shoulder and saying, maybe you didn't factor this in. They made a normal, sensible decision based on a bit more knowledge than they had the day before. That's all it is.
Shawn, any thoughts on this?
I didn't see the problem with it when we saw the reveal. That's just where, my region, there is some of that, but I'm not somebody that dabbles at all in that for many reasons. But like when you look up a Templar horse, you could find different versions of it. Now, the one thing that I like is the change. I mean, I do like the armor on the horse's head. Just that visually is, to me, more striking, at least. It feels more in tune with Mythic Legions to me versus the original way. But I do like that it has the logo for the faction on the fabric now as well. I think that fits nicely because I know I think I read where Jeremy was saying, you know, like the Templars are one of the groups that always gets a lot of, there's the people, oh, it's too real world, and you know, but it's like there should be knights in the line and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like this is yet another, this is their version of that, and it's like just taking those two little tweaks has turned it more into a Mythic Legions steed than the original version, in my opinion. And it's a great addition. I like that they did it that way, and it's unfortunate that the other way got the I don't want to say the negative feedback, but it's unfortunate the other way turned it into a big like
drama.
Social commentary and drama behind the scenes, when it was, yes, it's great that they're like, we don't want to condone this in any way, shape, or form. We don't want anything that we produce to be something that brings people anything but, you know, joy for what's on their shelves and their passion for what we create. So in that way, it's like, yeah, they did a great move. And it was it wasn't like they're publicizing it all over the place. It was very, hey, we understand, we heard your concerns, and here's how we fixed it. And you know, it's classy the way they handled it.
Jesse?
Well, I mean, you and I talked a lot about this. I initially didn't see any, like the original release didn't catch me off guard because my brother's a medieval history professor. You know, I've grown up watching all that stuff, so it just looked like a knight with armor and the whole comparison thing. It's not a look I'm particularly fond of because it makes me think of like horse racing, and like that's just something that my mind has no interest in, like the whole, like the head wrap and everything. And it's a shame that, and I'm not saying the Templars were like the best, purest, nicest people in actual history, but that imagery is now completely permanently attached to this other group, at least in America, is a shame. But that said, I like this look so much better. I like the armor look and the faceplate on the horse so much better. I like that they switched the crosses out, because when I first started getting the line, I'm like, if this is some other world, why are there? And I'm a Christian, that's my faith. So seeing crosses in this world, I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. And then when I put together that the cross on the Templar uniform was the Heaven's brand sword, like it's portrayed on the eagle here, you know, point down, I was like, oh, okay, that makes so much more sense. So seeing these horses with the Aetheron logo on it is much more impressive to me than just the red and white cross.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it. I like it, and yeah, I agree. It was a fast, bravo turnaround on their part to correct something before it became an actual issue.
But the bonus of getting the Aetheron stuff on the soft goods is no other, like Max Bird can't do that. He can do the cross. True. But it's only the horsemen that can do the logos of their factions. So if you're interested in that in any way, shape, or form, this is literally the only time you get it.
And I love that, even though like the Templars are a subgroup within the Order of Aetheron. So to me, you know, they are Templars in their uniform, but when they ride out as the army, because they protect the temple, if they're riding out in armored horseback to fight, they are part of the Order of Aetheron. So like, it to me, it feels like shows a hierarchy of their station within their own army and everything. So I think it works.
I like that idea. That's cool.
But what about Rich's 47 Templar customs that really rely on the cross and they're completely non-canon?
Once it's on your shelf, you can do whatever you want with it. Like that's the yeah. But I say that in the most genuine way about the line. Like you said,
here, you know.
The Max Birds, you can still get the Max Bird with the cross or whoever else makes them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the joy of the line, though, isn't it? It's fantasy. You know, my Templars, I've got 30 plus at the moment, I think, probably near 40. But there's only maybe 4 or 5 that are human. The rest are different races. You know, so it's not a traditional, you know, Christian medieval symbol thing. It's just this is the way they dress.
Mhm.
But then there's orcs, there's werewolves, there's treemen, there's all sorts of different things. You know, which just makes it different.
Curtis, this is the only
never at any
Templar,
point-
you know.
There you go.
Yeah, baby.
Gotta love it.
Well, now we found what the thing that you did to make him want to cut you off the stream. So there you go.
Yeah, no, that's all right. As long as he's got it on a Templar, I'll let it pass.
Ooh.
I did want to bring up this because we didn't really talk about the belts pack,
Yeah.
but I think this is another fan service thing. Like, I
It's
know
cool.
lots of people were asking for this, and the fact that we're getting 7 belts in here that are fully painted, like you've got the buckles, you've got the rivets, and this is $12. Like, that's less than $2 per belt for a fully painted belt. It's just so cool. And that allows you to then go back and retrofit your, 40-person, Templar army that you've got. So,
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
for not that crazy amount of money, to be honest, because
Yeah.
you got so you got 2, probably fit 4 Templars with the pack. So,
and stuff like this is important when you've got a lot of the same base figure.
yeah,
And you need some way of, it doesn't have to be a big way, but just some little way of visually just changing it, other than
and
just
the
doing a
black
head
and,
swap.
and the black and the brown, that's sweet as
Mhm.
well. Just to give you two options, and
Yeah.
I think you can paint these, but they're not the best to paint. That type of
I mean,
plastic.
I have 2 belts I wear in a day, like day in and day out. One is black, one is brown. So this is
All
right up my
covers.
alley.
All covers,
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Jesse's going to get 1 pack of each, and he's going to switch his characters out each day. One day, next day he's going to put the brown one on him.
You're in Jesse Cannon.
I'm completely shocked that Curtis didn't go. And my favorite of all time, and then do the belts pack to shut everybody up. And have us
He's
all
just
go,
going to buy
"Really?"
50 of these and twist them all together until there's like a figure all twisted together out of belts, like Colin or
what we
whoever did
haven't-
with the wing adapters made up.
Yeah. Did you figure out the number yet of how many of the packs you're going to need for your stuff yet, Curtis?
Oh, I don't know. But my initial thought is a dozen, 6 of each. But that number could easily change.
I think the good thing about these, hopefully, obviously not this Legions Con, but maybe future Legions Con or shows that you can get to, like PowerCon, for example. You can probably get to that, Curtis. You might be able to pick this stuff up, and for $12 in the show without shipping, that's a sweet deal,
And they're easy to pack in suitcases, John.
Hey.
For us
Yeah.
that-
Well,
Take
they
it
will
from the
definitely.
barn,
The
put it in your
packaging will
pants.
definitely be for the cleaning lady. Yeah, that's for
Yeah.
sure. But and Rich Vampire Skeleton Head. I mean, we were there.
We
We were
were.
waffle last
Yeah.
week. We did say Vampire Skeleton. I was kind of like, is there such a thing? But now there is.
Very, very happy with that. The head pack in itself is great.
Yeah.
Um,
The fact
but
that
you
it's all
think of
belts is
Gorillas.
great.
Yeah, if I was a 3D parts company, I'd be mad now. No, they're a year out, so okay, fine.
I
And
didn't
their stuff,
even
they
think
look
of that.
different enough. They're
Yes.
like the orc skull from is it Wolf King or Legion Shop? It looks different enough from this one.
True,
And
true.
the cat head that Saba did at Planetary Dog, like that looks different enough from this. So like even if you had 5 skeletal cats, they could have slightly different profiles.
Yeah.
I see a starred message here from Rory.
Yeah.
Curtis, do you think the all-in is worthwhile for new collectors or just order of everything else? Here's what I say. I would always advocate, if you can get an all-in, get an all-in. You basically are getting a figure for free out of it. You're getting these things at the cheapest price that you're going to get them. And worst case scenario, if you get a figure in that you don't like, they retain really good trade or sell value. So you're not going to lose money on the deal if you get an all-in. My comments about the all-in or the all-stars kind of, that running its course is that because I would rather replace those figures with new ones. And even for new collectors, like if I was a new collector getting this line right now, I would feel the same way. Not because I don't want any of those old figures, because some of them are really cool. but I think the new ones are just so much better that there's no point in looking back and getting those old figures when you can instead get a new one, unless you're a quote unquote completionist. And let's be honest, being a completionist in this line is not really feasible unless you've got like 2 rooms full of display space to put all this stuff. At some point, you're going to have to make decisions on which things are important to you in the line and which ones aren't, because you're not going to be able to display everything. So
challenge accepted.
and you know, I mean, like Jesse, like I know what you're saying, Jesse, but you haven't gone all in on every single wave, and I don't know that you'll like. There's a lot of us that I understand.
Because he needed to eat.
Point. Yeah, I want to go in all in on every single wave. I want to get multiples of every, but I cannot afford to. So with the All Stars, I like that it's not 11 all new figures that I'm worried about. Like I can pick and choose the ones I really want to make sure I guarantee up front, and then I can pick the other ones. So the ones that would be last in my cart would be the All Stars. I don't disagree, but I do want all of them, and I want multiple Gorthoks. Both offers a decent value for a named dwarf that you'd be able to pick off the table, since like fodder dwarves aren't really available. So the deluxe builders are selling out.
Here's what I'll say. Between Figure Obscura and Mythic Legions and Cosmic Legions, let's say a year from now, you're probably going to have close to 300 figures in that. That's if you don't army build. That's if you just had one of each. And we know that we're not the kind of collectors that just get one of every character. There's going to be certain ones, whether it's Templars or Orcs or Demons or whatever your thing is, Skeletons, that you're going to get more than one figure. So like I said, I don't think too many people have enough space that you can realistically have one of every figure. There's going to be some out there that are crazy enough or have enough room or have enough money that they do that. I just don't think that's going to be for everybody. And the further we go into this line and more people come into it, it's going to be even less reasonable for somebody new coming in to get all of the figures. So get what you like. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that.
Do like Rich, just set up eBay alerts, and when a figure goes over a certain level, then you just pop it off the shelf into a parcel, and that's
John,
that's the next wave paid for.
That is a slanderous statement. No matter how
it's only slander if it's not true.
The only Legion I still have in box is a Thistlethorn that was given to me as a gift because
but you are a Thistlethorn.
And
you are a Thistlethorn customizer king. So you know you need to. Have
I got it signed by the Horseman and Mike Caspar, because he's the one that gave it to me. Because he's like,
cool.
did you get a Thistlethorn while you were in line at PowerCon? I was like, no. I was like, I've got one. I left it up there in case someone who didn't have a chance to get one. So he just pulls one out of his box and gives it to me. Yeah, and he was like, I know this is your favorite guy. It needs to go with you. I was like, so yeah, now I don't even feel comfortable giving it to someone else who doesn't have it. Because it was a gift, and now it's signed, so I'm definitely not getting rid of it.
I will say we are looking for a test shot of Thistlethorn for Jesse. So if anybody out there is aware of one,
well,
there you go.
I'm going to cross my fingers that Thistlethorn is an important enough character to earn a version 2. And if I can get a test shot of the version 2, that would be cool.
But if somebody out there does have a version 1 test shot of Thistlethorn, hit me up. All right, we'll work out a deal.
Can I just say before Legions Con 2, while that's very, very nice of Jesse to leave stuff behind, if anyone's directly behind me in the queue in Legions Con, then there's one
best of luck,
out of luck.
You are
It's going home with me. I don't care.
I've paid 500 quid for a plane here. I'm not fucking leaving it.
No, I mean,
To be fair, Jesse, I mean, you're near to New Jersey or thereabouts, yeah.
I'm
I mean, if I was where you were and I could get to a few local cons, I'd probably be a bit more casual about.
I will say I was watching.
I really wouldn't.
I was watching Oz's show last night. I was watching Oz's show last night, and they were talking about a dragon, and they were saying, I know everybody's talking about a dragon, but where would you keep it? Listen, that's not a problem. Okay. I'll kick kids out of my house. I will buy a new house. whatever I need to do, we'll make room for the dragon. So if they put a dragon out, we'll find a way. All right. So
yeah, but if they could fuck right off with the dragon now for the moment, there's enough going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cosmic Wave 1 and 2 and a few other things and let me sell my extras.
Can you imagine how long a dragon would sit in customs?
He might fucking blow the place apart. And my wife's not a collector, but she is a huge dragon fan. I mean, Game of Thrones was thing with the dragons, and those Schleich figures. This German company. They're very not that articulate, but they have a couple of cool dragons. And I got her a couple of them over the years, and she has them on kind of fishing line in her office. Kind of
nice
from the ceiling. Yeah. So yeah, dragon. The funding for the dragon is zero problems. It's more just everything else,
If they're going to do dragons, I can't help but feel they need two sizes. So they have the American size because you guys all seem to have basements and massive houses, no matter what your income is. And then you got the European size because we don't live in houses that big.
No, we have basements over here, Rich. I'd say the British size. The British size. I'm currently in a basement, and it's pretty spacious. So
I'll take.
I would say the British size.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was always saying, I'm even not for even with endless amounts of money, I wouldn't like it to be too big. I'd be up for a little bit bigger than a troll. That's fine for me.
I like parking my van in the garage so that it doesn't get snowed on and stuff. But I can easily park on the street and just use my garage.
It doesn't snow for that long in where you are, Curtis.
You work from home.
That's true.
He still has to get out. He still has to get out and feed the family.
That shows the scale that you're thinking you want it to be too. You want it to be as long as a van.
Yeah.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
I mean,
you just back up the truck. I'm fine.
I'm sure in Europe they have the stereotypes of how America, when we say large, it's like ridiculously large compared to maybe what.
Well, it's like the old Bill Hicks joke. He goes in for the coffee in some rural like Tennessee. He said in his joke, "It's like, do you want the 32 ouncer or the large?"
Yeah.
Now that makes sense to you three. We don't know what 32 ounces is, but we reckon it's big.
That's like, I'm almost picturing Curtis is like, I want the American large, but then the European could have the 32 ouncer, and that's it's like, it's almost regional in that way to them. But
if the Horsemen put out a dragon, I want to be able to ride it.
Oh my God.
That's how big I want it to be.
That's not getting through customs, Curtis. I'm just going to have to pet that one at Legions Con and go home.
And look,
or maybe that's what I'll do. I'll book an extra seat for it on the way home. It's probably cheaper. It's probably cheaper.
Dragon.
Yeah,
you order on the website and can you leave that aside? There's like a shipping option. Leave it aside at Legions Con.
It's literally a mortgage to get that dragon the way you're talking about it, because I can only see that being as long as a house. I mean, just saying.
Crazy.
I mean, if you're riding it, that's a whole different perspective now.
Yeah. Dragons comes in all shapes and sizes, from Asian dragons to European dragons to the American reimagining of all of those things. It could be as big as a horse, big as the troll. It's gonna be cool whatever the horsemen do. I know that's a cheesy cop out.
I just want to see the head sculpt on the dragon they do. It's going to be up, and I hope I know it will be, but when you see the dragon, you'll know that's a 4 horseman sculpt dragon, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I just want to see Rich turn a dragon into a Templar.
I think he can do it.
Or a vampire.
Who do you think will have their head customized to fit the dragon first?
Him.
Good
stuff.
Yeah.
Greg.
I was thinking Greg.
Yeah,
he'll be carrying around a backpack waiting for that day where he's got like a quarter scale of his own size head.
Greg will just be stoned one day and just go into a 3D sculpting shop and oh yeah.
Joe says,
$2,000. There you go.
Joe says the dragon comes with a jacket and a hat, so you can put him on a plane with you.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And the passport. Don't forget a passport. We'll just have to look up what's the best passport to get in terms of free travel. Yeah.
It'll
guess
be a Friday night Legions Con exclusive the first year it moves to Missouri when it's in Curtis House, so no one knows where to go.
I'm
There's only
just
going to
getting
be 4 of them made.
I'm getting a kick out of the 3 of you guys having your passport photos where you're holding the dragon with you. So your neighbor comes in.
He's on.
Will be kissing it on the side. John will be there proudly displaying it. And Mal's just kind of like, dragon. And he just holds it up and he's like, don't worry about me. I want the dragon to get home.
I'll go to Vegas on the way home, get married to the dragon.
Yeah, there you go. It has to come over. It's my
And then
wife.
it's like, it's by the law.
And it's off. It works. Let's do this.
You know,
You don't even have to get out of your car in Vegas. You can just go through one of those wedding drive-thrus.
stay on the plane. It'll just be like, Elvis, can you come on the plane and marry us quickly? You know, no frills, just the basic ceremony.
I want the
So you want young Elvis, not late stage Elvis. No frills.
Well, that'd be easier to get on the plane, wouldn't it?
Oh, so those frills are okay.
Young Elvis, ancient dragon. Yeah.
I'll even kiss the dragon. I'm good. You know, let's get going here.
Well, guys, this has been a ton of fun. We appreciate you coming on. The Ted Lasso talk was awesome. Appreciate you guys talking Legions. We love your show. For anybody tuning in, watching on replay, whatever, check out EuroLegions Podcast.
Yes.
Really great show, especially if you're taking a shower. Scrubbing up naked.
We're gonna have to get you on, boys, now, so Curtis can listen to himself in the shower. That'll be the ultimate circle of life, won't it?
And I don't want to think about what kind of circle that would be.
Then he'd be listening to you in the shower as well, Jesse. You'll have to
I definitely don't want to think about that.
All right. Anything that you guys want to promote? Anything you guys got coming up that you want to talk about?
No. On our last episode, we had a giveaway for a Sebadom kit. So make sure to get your. It's a competition where you email into the EuroLegions Podcast at gmail.com your answer. It's basically, spoiler alert, but if you've listened this far on this show, we'll let you away with it. It's our 3 favorite factions: Mal, myself, and Rich. So it's 3 different factions. I think if you've listened to any of our stuff along now, you'll kind of know. So get those emails in.
Yeah, and this week's episode coming up, it's going to be the 3 of us chatting about All Stars again, but with a couple of our European collector friends on as well. So we've got Thomas Rydberg and Nico Ding. I forgot his name. Dinkela. Yes, who's the admin for the European Mythic Legions group. So the 5 of us will be chatting about what we think about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, if I try to apply to the Euro Mythic Legions group, would they let me in, or would they?
Totally, yeah. Travis is in there. Steve Bishotti is in there. Yeah.
I didn't know if there was a gender check, like for
no,
or anything. No, they don't.
No.
No, we good.
No, we want everybody in there.
Okay.
Gotcha. Jesse caught that too. He had that book.
I'm even. I recently, Nico recently asked me to be a moderator on the group, so I can even let you in, Curtis. Don't worry, you don't even have to.
Say, is European a gender?
Yes. Well,
it's a philosophy. European is a philosophy. It's a way of life.
Yes,
basically. Just not.
Well, I've had a couple drinks, so right after this, European. Oh no, I'm a peon.
You a being a peon.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well,
but and guys, we will definitely see you in November. It's going to be
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
Anytime you ever feel like getting on a plane, you don't even need to give us advance notice. One of us will look after you. Don't worry.
We'll get to sleep in the dragon room.
Totally, yeah. Well, yeah. If you go to Rich, you mightn't have as much space in terms of you might have to sleep with some figures, which might be your thing, So
you'll have even less in my place.
I'm sucker with the figures near me. It's like comforting. So yeah.
Exactly.
Well, the one last thing that I've got tonight, in just a few hours from now, Jesse and I will have Trevor Williams on. And we will be doing this again.
I'm looking forward to catching that on replay, guys, because unfortunately it's it's going to be crazy o'clock here by the time you're on again.
It'll be mostly Curtis and Trevor probably arguing about the positives and negatives of Frazetta or
Frazetta,
whatever the other thing is.
Blue lighting on photographs.
Yeah.
I mean, how lucky are we to have Trevor in our world in terms of Legions?
Very.
So nice.
I remember when, like, he was the first table I went to at Legions Con because I wanted to get his calendar, and just blown away by how normal and kind of regular he is, and kind of a little bit, how would you say it? Kind of a little bit insecure almost about his, how awesome he is.
Yeah.
In a very non-American way, and I mean that in the nicest possible way.
Thanks.
In that if you're good at stuff, you're not shy about it generally, which is fine, no problem. But Trevor was refreshingly like, oh, you really think I'm a good photographer? It's like, Trevor! So, love him.
John, can I just double check? Was it definitely Trevor or was it Nate behind the desk?
No, it's Trevor. But Nate's the same, and he's just as talented.
He pulls up the Scooby-Doo mask.
Nate's just as talented. He's just got more horses to tend and land to look after. Whereas Trevor is purely photos.
Good
so
stuff.
we're very lucky to have so many, and you guys, of course, as well. And it's awesome to have you on as well, Shawn.
It's a pleasure to be in this with it. When Jesse said, "Hey, we're gonna have the EuroLegion guys on. Do you want to be on?" I'm like, right now, let's do this. Like, it's a pleasure. So I enjoy your podcast.
It was so. I mean, I knew you in the douche before. I'm a Moto guy as well, but seeing you with the My Wife Is Going to Kill Me boys and Anthony at the quiz at Legions Con, that was epic.
Hey, last minute stuff will save the day for me. Otherwise,
that was some of the most fun. And then you again going, I know nothing about Legions, and you were like, every question right, and like, who's this guy? He knows nothing.
I went in it as humble as possible, and I was actually shocked that he missed one of them. I'm like, you've been in this longer than me. How did you miss that one? I missed one.
You were studying up with Jesse, weren't you?
Yeah. We actually were talking on the way there. Like, I think I should study now, and I'm like, oh god, and all this stuff. And then like my main concern, I remember, because the pre-order was hitting, and I remember going, if I mess this up, Corn Boy, you are still going to honor my pre-order, correct? He's like, yeah, we'll figure it out or whatever.
Corn Boy's cool.
And
also you're lucky you guys are in the same area as well. That's awesome.
You got
we're like
by Maverick's stopwatch too.
Yeah.
Actually, I got that there was 60 seconds and
Is he going to be banished back from Korea by then? Or?
I don't know.
Shawn, can I check how's your game for the mud wrestling match between you and Anthony this year?
Hey, you know what? I'll let him sort out what the pricing will be on that one, because I'm not good with money. I obviously my
Shawn's
wife
looking well
looks...
though, so I think we're and Anthony's
Anthony's looking pretty sleek lately.
Yeah,
he said he dropped so much pounds, and
well, that's just because he shaved his back.
That's true. when he took
any which way you can,
Like I remember thinking the minute he was about to rip his shirt off, I go, holy shit, I'm about to fight Captain America and Chewbacca's child. What am I supposed to do about this? And that's why I did the shuffle as fast as I could. And apparently that I had no idea that would win people over. But yeah, that was like, I got to do something on the same par as this, but what do I do? Like, so it's like, Truffle.
Go with your gut.
Go, yeah.
Literally.
Literally and metaphorically. Oh, we got it again.
There it is.
We got it again.
Just for you guys.
Oh my god.
We're still live, right?
Yeah, I know. That's okay.
If anyone's watching this show, if they've got to the end of it, they've definitely there's been a payoff.
That's
Jesse,
the move.
Can you put an extra,
move that saved my life at Legions Con. Yeah, there you go.
Jesse, can you put an extra chapter in the YouTube for that?
Trouble shuffle chapter.
Just in case somebody was to go right to that.
The worst part is now you can slow-mo that.
I mean, who's to say Curtis won't turn it into a reel for Facebook like he did?
I have a feeling.
My action figure accessories from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you know what? It is what it is. I'm okay with it.
Oh, no, we love it if it is. Don't worry.
beautiful.
You got to be true to yourself.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank
Curtis
you.
and I will be back at 9 p.m. tonight, or 9 p.m. yesterday, depending on when you're listening to this. I really want to thank Shawn and Rich and John and Mal for joining us today and taking so much time out of their day to talk about Ted Lasso and action figures. And we'll see y'all later. And as always, what's on your shelf?